Okay, welcome everybody to this general committee meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order at exactly 9 a.m. And I have regrets from Councillor Stone today. He's under the weather and taking a well-deserved day off because he's feeling unwell. So with that, Deputy Mayor Armour, would you mind reading the land acknowledgement statement, please?
Thank you, Worship. I would like to respectfully acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe under the terms of the Robertson-Huron Treaty No. 61 of 1850 and the Williams Treaty of 1923. We commit to acknowledge, learn, educate, create opportunity on our sacred places, and take action towards real truth and reconciliation in support of our commitment to walk in the path together in respect, peace, and harmony for future generations. Ms. Witch.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. And are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Okay, seeing none, I am told that our invited Zach Solomon, oh, he is here now. Okay, thank you. 2 seconds ago, he wasn't here, so there we go. I was supposed to skip. But welcome, Zach. We're moving to an invited presentation from Zach Solomon from Accent Building Sciences, Inc. Regarding the building condition assessment for town facilities, main and auxiliary park buildings. Welcome, Zach. Over to you. Can we? Yeah, we can hear you if you.
Perfect. Just want to make sure everybody can hear me. Thank you. And good morning, everyone. I would like to present for you the work we've done with your asset management group this in 2024, which is the building condition assessment. So if I can ask to share our PowerPoint presentation for everyone.
Okay, so I'm just wondering who is that? Is Zach? Perfect. Thanks, Zach.
Thank you. So as I already talked about, so we've done the building condition assessment. We call it BCA for short, for 34 of the town facility. So introduction. First, we're going to talk about introduction to building condition assessment. Why we doing building condition assessment? The value to municipalities. As part of our mandate as well, we conduct appraisal update for 50 plus facilities in addition to the BCAs. We're going to talk about why the appraisal changed significantly, obviously due to the construction inflation that happened since COVID-19. We're going to talk about building condition assessment key elements. We're going to talk about condition grading criteria for building element. We have something called facility condition index for whoever not familiar with. It's just an index to rate building based on their repair and replacement needs. So facility condition index, FCI. So it defines where the building stands in terms of state of good repair. As well, we're going to talk about facility health overview, condition and performance analysis. We're going to talk about town projected expenditure by FCI rating, and that for 2025-2026, which is kind of immediate and short-term repairs and replacement needed. We're going to have a summary and what the next step for the town. So next slide, please. So building condition assessment, it's a program that address proactive and strategic approach to understanding the state of and condition of municipal assets and facilities. It is an essential tool to ensure that these assets remain in state of good repair, as I mentioned, supporting the effective delivery of services to the community. So why are we doing BCA? So first of all, there's compliance. So there's a Ontario Regulation 588/17 that asks all municipalities in Ontario to complete an asset management plan, AMP, and asset management planning for municipal infrastructure, The BCA, it's an essential tool to provide data to meet that regulatory requirement and maintain compliance. It ensures, obviously, asset longevity, regular assessment, ensure the timely maintenance and repairs, extending the life cycle of infrastructure, and maximizing their service life. That obviously by doing regular maintenance and regular repairs and replacement when needed. Risk management, it's identifying aging or deteriorating asset, mitigate potential failure, reduce unexpected cost, and enhance public safety. Cost optimization, BCA help align asset management principle by minimizing lifecycle cost while maximizing taxpayer value. It's informed decision-making, accurate condition data allows municipalities to prioritize investment, allocate budget efficiently, and plan for long-term infrastructure needs. Now, one thing here I want to add that we take pride of look at accessibility, even if sometimes not part of our scope, but we look at accessibility. We conduct accessibility reviews in the building, especially in the public use building, community center and towns and all that, town halls. So that also included in our reports. So the value for municipalities, obviously, is maximize value for taxpayer, well-maintained asset, ensure efficient service delivery, and optimize public fund usage. It addresses sustainability, proactive asset management support, environmental and fiscal sustainability by aligning with long-term sustainability goals. As I mentioned earlier, so it's a regulatory as well alignment, conducting BCA ensure compliance with OREG 5817, fostering accountability and transparency. It's also address community impact, reliable infrastructure, builds trust, improves public safety, enhance the quality of life for residents. So as I mentioned earlier, we conduct appraisal update for 50 plus facilities. It's a professional evaluation determining the insurable value of a property of asset, commonly used for insurance, taxation, or sale purposes. So appraisal usually looks at buildings, but doesn't look at site component around the building, because that usually is not affected in case, God forbid, the fire or something like that. So it's not affected. So we look at the building itself. So 2024 appraisal of town buildings. So in September 2024, the town conducted an appraisal of its identified properties. The outcome, the appraiser determined the insurable value of these properties, assisting the town in analyzing its insurance needs. The updated appraisal value led to a significant increase, unfortunately, in property values. As I mentioned, we'll talk about the inflation factor. This escalation has led to substantial adjustment in the town insurance coverage decision, resulting in higher premiums. So, construction inflation. Significant inflation in the construction happened since COVID-19. The factor driving that since first quarter of 2020, prices of essential construction material have surged. For example, a few examples here: concrete up 55%, structural steel 53%, all like aluminum 140%, asphalt, bitumen, anything related to roofing went close to 45%. So labor shortage as well. High vacancy rates in construction industry have led to increased labor costs. In 2022 alone, wages in that sector grew 9.4%, nearly double the pace of other industries. Supply chain disruption, all heard of that. The pandemic caused significant supply chain issues, leading to shortage and delays in obtaining necessary material, further driving up cost. That obviously it's a RBC study. Impact on non-residential construction costs, that also study done by Statistics Canada. In 2022, non-residential building construction costs in Canada rose by 12.5%, marking the highest annual increase since 1981. Obviously, all these factors that we mentioned, they collectively led to increased property value and have significant implication for the town insurance consideration. So back to the BCA. Building condition assessment evaluate essential component of a building to determine repair and replacement needs. Key area include, so as I mentioned, substructure, foundation, concrete slabs, steel decking, everything structure in the building, basement walls, basement foundation. Shell, which we would like to call it building envelope, so roofs, walls, windows, doors, all that, that keep the building warm, cold in the summer. Interiors, so we have finishes, partitions, stairs. We usually look at kitchen equipment, kitchen countertops, like lockers, bathroom cubicles, all that. Services that obviously include plumbing, hot water, HVAC, rooftop unit, boilers, electrical component, as well as fire protection, life safety. Equipment and furnishing that, as I mentioned, could be kitchen equipment, could be lockers, could be change room equipment. Special construction, a unique structure, and selective demolition. These obviously include as well like special buildings such as arenas, pool, and town hall. Site work, that what I mentioned is not included usually in appraisal. These are landscaping, parking lot, utilities. In this case, as I mentioned, we look at accessibility, how we can approach the building, and how we can safely get somebody with special needs to the building. So, as I mentioned, there's a criteria to how to evaluate buildings, and we categorize them in general into 4 or 5 categories. So sometimes it's very good or excellent. There's good, fair, poor. Sometimes also we go to very poor, which is now in the percentage here, as you probably see. Excuse me, that means the building has pretty much only 5% of life cycle left. So these are buildings that need quick attention. So why it matters? It informed planning, prioritize maintenance, repair, and replacement. Where to put the money, what to repair and maintain, what not to repair and maintain, what to retire as a building. So allocate resources based on urgency, sustainability, extend asset life, and ensure safety. So back to what I mentioned, Facility Condition Index, the FCI for buildings. So what is FCI? FCI is a standardized metric used to assess the condition of a building by comparing the cost of necessary repairs to the cost of replacing the entire facility. It provides a clear, quantifiable way to evaluate the urgency and extent of maintenance needs. So how we calculate it for building assessment, the FCI is calculated based on we add the cost of immediate repairs needed plus what the replacement and repair needed in the next 2 years, and we divide that on the total replacement cost of the building. Obviously, multiply by 100, we get the percentage. So how we that reflected, so low FCI value indicate a well-maintained building with minimal repair needs. High value suggests the facility nearing the end of its life cycle or requiring extensive repair or potential replacement. Facility Condition Index rating. So we go by percentage with that. So 0 to 2%, as you see the data, I will see later. That means excellent. The facility are in outstanding condition, minimal maintenance needs, probably new facility or well maintained. Good facilities are in good condition, but may require minor repair or upkeep. Fair is 5 to 10. Even if you see that's a small percentage, but for us it's fair. Now the facility need noticeable wear and may need moderate repair. Facility that greater than 10% poor. Obviously, if we are more than 20%, 25%, that become very poor. Next slide, please. So this is just a schematic how you'll see later how we categorize the buildings in general, which one are excellent condition, which are good, which fair, which poor. So that's, as I mentioned earlier, it's a deferred maintenance plus what we need to replace in the first couple of years, and we get the FCI. So facility health overview, condition and performance analysis. So we're assessing infrastructure condition to guide maintenance and investment decision. So the facility that we did the building condition assessment for, as I mentioned earlier, are 34 facilities. So they are divided between community halls, community centers. There are some cemetery facilities. There's park pavilions. There's beach pavilions. There's recreation facilities. We did museum and train station building. These are the Pioneer Village. We did 2 fire halls. There's public park washrooms facilities. Also, we did the library. And there are utility building, which these are the public work building and utility building. So these are the buildings that we did. Next slide, please. So in general, after doing our PCA and conducting the FCI calculation, we determined that pretty much 15% of the building are in excellent condition. There's 35% in good condition. There's again another 25%, almost 25% of fair and poor. So these were the categories. Now the money needed for this building in 2025. So these are how much we need on the building that are in good condition, how much we need in the building that in fair condition and in poor. So these are just money-wise, dollar numbers to establish to bring this building to state of good repair. Next slide, please. Okay. So as I mentioned, these are the percentage that we talked about earlier. This came from categorizing the building that we have, which one are in excellent condition. And so here we have Conway Park building, which is, as you know, Conway Park was built in 2014, so that's fairly new building. The River Mill Park bench shell, the park storage shed as well there, and another storage at Middle Church. So Pitman Bay shade structure, this is showing excellent because in a couple of years need to be replaced altogether. It's an old facility. I will see that the picture of that building later. These are the buildings that in good condition. I should mention here that this list for your review and feedback, you have obviously building area, what the total cost of project means, what cost to rebuild this building. So we look here at the say the library, it had $6.4 million to rebuild building like this, based on square footage and amenity that's available in this building. So this table talk about what the cost in 2025 and the repairs that needed now, what cost in 2026. Calculate the FCI, condition. So as I mentioned, we'll see later that we look at accessibility. So some buildings, they are in good condition, but they're lacking accessibility features. So that will it can change their FCI to the worst just because they lack an accessibility feature. So once this accessibility item taken care of and they're conducted, right away the FCI improve for this building, and that applicable to any repair done to buildings that you can always bring building from fair to good or good to excellent by doing the repair needed, the replacement needed. And sometimes it's a big ticket item. Let's say I like to usually name roofing or like HVAC. So once this roof is replaced, obviously few $100 to a few $100,000 sometimes to replace a big roof on a big facility, it will bring the building to a better condition and better FCI therefore. Next slide, please. So these are the buildings that in fair condition. So one of them is obviously the Civic Center. And as you know, the theater part is newer, but the Civic Center itself is close to 100-year-old. And we'll see later there's significant work needed on the exterior. There's roofing actually that need to be addressed shortly, and some HVAC equipment. There's washroom building here, Port Sydney washroom, Port Sydney Community Center, Fire Hall 1, it's in fair condition. The Fire Hall 5 was in good condition because it's 2008. This one is 1995. So the older the building, and if it's not some building close to 20 years, you need the roof, a new roof for it. You need new HVAC. So all this add up significantly and quickly to make lots of money needed in this building to bring it back to a state of good repair. Next slide, please. Yeah. So these are the poor condition. Some of them I would say poor, some very poor, depends on FCI. Let's say Pittman Bay washroom, as you see that the FCI is 42.5%. That building is currently not in use, and there's significant structural problem with it. So that one of the examples that need building need really attention and decision if this building need to be kept or not. That's something we don't get into. That's something for you, obviously. But if need to be open and be operational, it will require significant investment in it. Next slide, please. So just here, as I mentioned earlier, the building that we talk about, why they are in poor condition or very poor condition. You see a very high FCI here. This is the equipment depot. So you see here we categorize with the graph where these improvement needed. So looking at this quickly, you realize that really the investment need to be in the roofing and need to be in the site improvement. In this case, the parking lot is in very poor condition. Next one, please. So it's just going to be example of building. A salt shed, despite it was built recently in 2000, fairly, the way it is, it does not meet current standard. So the wall in it are 3 feet high. It should be 6 feet high because it will be very subject to tractor damage and all that. So there's, as you see, significant money need in the substructure. Next one, please. So annex, it's a small building, and inside it was renovated recently, so everything good on the interior finishes. Having said that, the roof need to be replaced. The HVAC, I believe, has the older refrigerant R22, so that you see how the building envelope can take toll on this building. Next one, please. That's the one I already mentioned, Pittman Bay washroom. So there's structural problem in this building, and obviously anything in the envelope need to be addressed. The roof, the soffit, it need work, this building, beside what's inside as well. So obviously it's in the park, but if you want to make it accessible, that also will include some investment. Next one, please. So Stevenson Township Hall, this is a nice building, been here since, I believe, 1878. So it had multiple addition and multiple, repairs and refurbishment, some accessibility upgrade. Still need the building. It's an older building and need work if we want to keep this building. So need site improvement, need interior repairs, and building envelope as well. Next one, please. So museum, it's generally in good condition. It had some renovation recently and some accessibility upgrade. So the roof need work. So that's why you see building envelope here. Site improvement, mostly it'll be accessibility because, as you know, there's no near parking for this museum. So that site improvement number is mostly to make it accessible. There's a ramp coming up to it. There's no guardrail for that ramp. So technically, it cannot consider accessible now unless somebody helps somebody to get to this building, which would defeat the purpose of AODA. But that's why you see the number here. So inside, I know the building was renovated, especially like the top floor. The basement is used as storage, but need work as well. Next one, please. So this is the change house that really is not maintained, and I'm not sure if used for change house or not, but that's the building we have. So it's as you see, FCI 100%, meaning we're saying replace this building. It's not a good building. Next one, please. The lookout, it's nice old building. It has some cracks in the foundation and in the pad. So there's actually, if you look close to that picture, there's a column that's missing. So that's just minor repairs here and there to keep it in good condition. Next one, please. So here there's some foundation repair needed. The parking lot is gravel, so in order to have a building and make it accessible, really gravel parking lot do not apply as accessible. So it has to be pavement, at least for two parking stalls to be barrier free near the entrance. The Civic Center, as I mentioned earlier, as you see, most of the money needed on the envelope. The bricks need work. The stairs, I know they're not used, but they use as fire exit. These stairs need some work. The walls around it, the roofs need work. Their HVAC need work on the roof. There are quite a few equipment that need attention. Mainly in the civic center part, in the town hall part, not in the theater. Obviously, the theater is newer, but the roof on the theater as well need attention. There's some safety on the roof need to be addressed as well, but I think that within the making, I think they're already in the work. Next one, please. So Port Sydney washroom, this just need new roof and some accessibility update. That's what need. It's not in bad condition. Next one, please. Port Sydney Community Center as well, lacking some accessibility feature. There's some cracks on the foundation need to be addressed, and as well as the envelope as well need refurbishment. Next one, please. Fire hall, as I mentioned, this is number one, which is 1995, I believe. There are roofing work need to be done. There's some site improvement. The parking lot needs attention. So it's in fair condition. Next one, please. It's just a small storage. There's some crack on the slab. Floor finishes. These are obviously the small buildings. Next one, please. Lookout beach storage. Again, this is a washroom building that, as you see, there's no hard surface to get to it. So in terms of accessibility, it does not fare good. Next one, please. Pavilion. So again, if you want to make it accessible, we need to improve the hard surface around it, parking lot, some minor repairs in the interior, which is the slab. Port Sydney Beach Pavilion, it's again the parking lot. They have some cracks, some refurbishment needed. This is the older one, I think from 60s, and need some work on the wood columns. Library, it's fairly renovated inside, but the building envelope, there's some brick deterioration at the back, need to be addressed. It's in good condition in general. Next one, please. I think these are all good. Summit Center, obviously it's a large building, your flagship building, but there's some roofing need to be done and some rooftop unit that has the R22 refrigerant, which is now it's not recommended to be used anymore. So mainly just like some HVAC upgrade and the roofing. It's a well-maintained building and it's very good condition. Next, please. These are, as I said, small pavilion, need just some structural repairs. And it's just like minor money, as you see, like close to 3,500. It's not, it's a small items. Next one, please. Park shed, this storage building that needs some work inside, and anything that not in terms of lighting, anything that's not LED, we recommend to replace with LED for energy saving purposes and sustainability. Next one, please. As I mentioned, Fire Station 5 is 2008, so pretty much everything in it is in good condition. There's some just minor door finishes needed and some lighting as well. Anything that's not LED, we recommend to replace to LED. So I hope I didn't make it long for you. So the summary as we mentioned earlier, there's 15% in excellent condition, 35% good, fair condition 25, and then again 24 poor. So as I noted, any major repair done, let's say big ticket item, roof replacement or HVAC upgrade, will take the building right away from fair to good, from good to excellent. Next one, please. So just to conclude, what next? So our report, the asset management team they will take it to the asset management plan, put that in a software to help you create projects from our reports and combine projects for efficiency. And it's a very good tool to have and plan future work in the future for that for all the buildings. So the findings from the building condition assessment program will inform the preparation of the town comprehensive asset management AMP for non-core asset for the 2025 AMP. The town asset management committee will oversee implementation in compliance with the reg that we mentioned, 5817, outlined in the strategic asset management policy. Proceed from invest divest process. That's something we don't involve in. That's the town will be allocated to reinvest in maintaining and upgrading the remaining facilities. Validation and prioritization. So staff will continue to validate and prioritize BCA recommendation annually, ensuring that resources are allocated effectively based on available funding and strategic priorities. Compliance and monitoring. So align planning with the town 2025 asset management plan and maintain progress toward achieving the goals of sustainable and cost-effective infrastructure management. So just to recap, we recommend to conduct building condition assessment typically every 5 years to make sure that all the buildings stay in state of good repair. Thank you for your time, and that was my presentation. Happy to answer any question.
Zach, thank you very much for your presentation. I have to say, it's unusual to present something like yours where it's a lot of really incredibly important information around numbers and all of that, but you managed to make all of council laugh at one point when you showed the Pitmans Bay change room, which was 100% not very good. And 100% poor, I think, is the way you said it. I know, and I think the pictures actually, I joke, but they're really helpful, and it's useful for us to see, one, all of the assets, but also the state of repair. I know I have a number of questions, but I'm going to ask committee. Yes, Councillor Renwick.
Sorry. Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Zach, for the presentation. It's an extremely thorough report, and I thank you for that. And I really appreciate how you use the word "we" in the report, alluding to the fact that you worked with our staff very well, and that you took a bit of ownership too. That these are not your buildings, but it seemed like they were. The question that I have for you, though, sir, is the building condition assessment, so the BCA that you do. The value of that number, how does that differ from the value through appraisals? So if like a market appraisal, so is there a huge difference between an assessment value that you're doing through the BCA versus like a real estate agent doing an assessed value?
Absolutely, it's a very good question, valid question. So appraisal is technically it's a walkthrough. So when you do appraisal for a building, you just need to know what the building construction is. Is it steel or concrete or wood? That's obviously for insurance purposes, for fire protection. Does it have sprinkler system or not? Fire alarm or not? And the area of the building, and you take up a picture of the building, and that's it. Versus the building condition assessment, obviously there are reports that were submitted to the town that they're probably happy to share with you. That we look at every pretty much component in the building. So we go look on the roof. We pick every single rooftop unit. So we will have a list of rooftop unit with model number, serial number, capacity, age, when this needs to be replaced, how much it costs to replace, and when. So in this case, we create a 25 years life cycle plan. So we said we put that you need to replace this rooftop unit in 2035. You need to replace the roof in 2028. You need to repair the roof now and replace it in 10 years. You need to replace 20% of the parking lot and the rest later on. So BCA is a very in-depth, detailed look at every component in the building, including, as I said, countertop or kitchen equipment, and also address accessibility, how you approach the building and how you can use the building with accessibility. Yeah, so it's very in-depth.
Thank you for that.
Thank you for that question and response. Any? Zach, I have a quick question. One is on the, when you identified the rating of each of the facilities and then you had a list of costs in 25 and 26, does it, with respect to the Civic Center, there was reference to proposed cost of 1.8 million in 25 and 792,000 in 26. Assuming we go forward with that expenditure, does that maintain the rating of fair or does that alter the rating?
Alter the rating. So as I mentioned earlier, so once you do like a major product like this, so when we're talking like say 2.5 million to a facility that roughly 30 million, so you're talking 10% expenditure like for the building cost. So right away you may go to good or even excellent when you spend this money. Yeah,
that's helpful. Thank you very much for that. All right, Councillor Renwick.
If I might, thank you, Worship. And I thought of it after when you stopped speaking or when I asked the question. The one that really stuck in my mind was the Pitman's Bay, and we did look at it. It's 408 square feet, and it's the cost of it is $182,000 to replace it, or to with the building costs. That's $450 a square foot for a little tiny building like that. Like that blew my mind when I looked at that, or looked at those numbers, and I thought, I guess the costs of construction and all of that is just unbelievable how much it is. So that was eye-opening for me. And like I said, it was just more of a comment than a question.
So just not to make it long, that range of $400 to $500 a square foot, it's actually for a smaller building. So once you go to like community center and arenas, and this rate will go to 750 to 800, even more. So keep in mind one thing, that when it comes to site features, you can go, how to say that, like you can go fancy on the site. You can go interlocking instead of asphalt. You can go, landscape and all that. So yeah, the range is actually not uncommon to have $600 to $800 square foot for a larger facility.
Thank you for that question too, because it does make reference to the earlier explanation about the increased cost of appraisal values. And once again, we're still living with the results of COVID, right? The increased construction costs and all of that. So it's quite phenomenal, really.
That's 100% correct. And I don't want to be a bearer of bad news, but this may go worse if the political situation change. So
I'd rather not hear that.
That's why I won't say it.
Deputy Mayor Armour.
Thank you, Worship. Just a very quick one. I noticed in quite a few of them you refer to the parking lot, which if you were to remove those, where's that going to take the building itself? So paved gravel to be into paid parking lot, etc. It really drops the value of them from fair to poor or worse. So how's the parking lot actually play into that?
So we did not try to kind of like recommend to pave a parking lot unless it's for accessibility purpose. So if you have a parking lot that is gravel, and let's say the user are happy with that, then they'll have no problem with it, then we did not recommend to pave that, because some of them have large like a gravel parking lot, and if you want to pave that, that's significant cost. Average cost for asphalt is between $8 and $10 per square foot. Imagine any 20,000 square feet parking lot will cost like $200,000. So now you remove that item from, so our Excel is very interactive. So we can, at any time, if you have a question, we can just remove, let's say, a component of a parking lot and see how that FCI reflects. It obviously gonna get, it may take anything from poor to fair, but we did not recommend to kind of go like a wide on paving that.
Okay, thank you for that. One last question, if I'm looking around the table, and that is, and maybe this is unfair, but I'm going to ask it anyway. I think we had 23.52% of our facilities were rated as poor. Do you have a sense of how that compares to other municipalities that you've looked at? Is that
I
sort
would,
of average or?
yes, actually, it's better than the average. So we've done facility towns that probably 35% of the building are poor. The more we find, I personally do lots of these BCAs across Ontario, from like White River, Wawa to Ottawa area, Russell, Mississippi Mills. So we do across. Once you go out of Greater Toronto area, there are municipalities that they don't do BCA on regular basis. So I know the city of Toronto, city of Mississauga, they do BCA every 5 to 7 years max. When you're not doing this on regular basis, the BCA is a very useful tool to start that process and make it kind of done on regular basis. As I said, not like advertising for my work, like this work could go somewhere else, but every 5 years it should be done. The more these BCA are done, the better usually the rate of the facility. So because it's kind of tool to keep kind of that monitoring and looking at it like interactive.
Yep, that's great, and I completely get that. We have one more question. Councillor Clark.
Thanks, Mayor Alcock. Not a question, just a comment. Just wanted to quickly say, on the surface, it's a bit of a discouraging report when you look at it, but I think the positive thing is that 76% of the properties we own fall in the excellent to fair category, so that's what we have to keep in mind. Always work to be done, but I appreciated the comment from the presenter that we are doing better than what some municipalities are doing.
I totally agree. Councillor Schumacher, you had no idea, Zach, that this would create
yes.
all of this interest.
Thank you, through you, Mayor, to Zach. So yes, and I appreciate being the chair of accessibility that you brought up a lot of the accessibility pieces. Now, I noticed there's accessibility in some of them, but like you talked about the museum and the accessibility aspects, but there's not like a tab for accessibility in, say, that one. Is that covered under site improvement piece? Is that where the accessibility feature also would be to increase that one?
Correct. So
for example, okay.
go ahead. Yeah. So correct for that particular case, yes, because mostly is to pave the parking lot. Like there's small parking lot. The big parking lot is way far, so it does not kind of meet any accessibility. It's way far from the facility, like more than 300
Yes.
yards away. So it has to be at least couple near the building, and then obviously this ramp going up need guardrail. So the person in a wheelchair, for example, need to be able to grab on something to go there, assuming they don't have a scooter, right? So.
Yes.
So yeah,
And I know
we
myself, I've lifted people over even the door getting in and out of
So,
that. Yeah.
100%. As I mentioned, that defeat the purpose of AODA. AODA it asks for people to be able to use the facility without harm, right? So for dignity and all that. Your team on asset management from the town, Julia, ask about that, and we have in our reports is categorized which item fall under accessibility. So we have category and like for the need for repair. Is this life and safety? Is this structural? Is this just to keep the building in good upkeep? So one of the category is accessibility issue. So that apply to any power door that's missing, any washroom facility that's not does not meet the ALDA, all that. So it's easy. We believe that it's easier to categorize this thing and take them out of the report and address them separately. Yes.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, Zach, thank you again for a really great presentation. Really important information, and you made it interesting. So that's really important from my perspective. And as you alluded to, our team will be dealing with this a bit later in our meeting. So thank you for being here and being available for questions.
It was my pleasure, and thank you all. Thank you for your time.
Okay, so moving along to our deputations, we are starting with Dean Smales from the Mary Lake Association and Jill Perry from the Muskoka Watershed Council regarding the Port Sydney Beach parking lot, boat launch, and shoreline. And they are here in person. Welcome. Welcome. You do. You have to hit that button and you've got it.
Good morning, Mayor, councilors, and the Town of Huntsville staff. My name is Dean Smales. I'd like to say I love Port Sydney. I am a longtime resident, business owner, and community volunteer. We are all here today for the same reason, to make our town a better place to live. On behalf of the Mary Lake Association, we need to bring attention to the shoreline at the Port Sydney Beach parking lot. As shown in our opening photo, it is not doing well. The Mary Lake Association, in collaboration with the Muskoka Watershed Council, have developed a proposal to preserve and beautify the Port Sydney Beach parking lot area. This proposal addresses environmental concerns as well as enhances the natural beauty of Mary Lake. I'm here today with Jill Perry from the Mary Lake Association and Rebecca Williamson from the Muskoka Watershed Council. The Port Sydney Beach is one of the most beautiful locations, a jewel in the crown of Huntsville. You can travel around the world and not find a more scenic setting. Breathtaking views and shimmering waters. The beach attracts many locals and visitors each year, and the pristine waters are vital for boating, fishing, and drinking water. During the COVID-19 pandemic, Port Sydney saw a significant increase in boat traffic and associated launching activities. Beginning in 2020, vehicles began parking with their trailers in the water, often with their tires or near the water's edge. At peak times, as many as 10 vehicles were parked side by side. And while this practice diminished somewhat now, it still persists into last summer, 2024. This practice has led to shoreline erosion and vegetation loss, as you can see in the photo there. The following photos we're going to show you compare boat launches that have a shoreline buffer and more responsible parking than what currently exists at Port Sydney Beach. We are the only parking lot that, unlike the other town launches, allows vehicles and trailers to be parked on the shoreline and in the water. Our Mary Lake Association proposal aims to rehabilitate the shoreline at Port Sydney Beach parking lot by reestablishing a vegetative buffer or ribbon of life as defined in the Town of Huntsville's official plan. This buffer will slow runoff and prevent pollutants from reaching the lake and improving water quality. We are all worried about water quality in our lakes. We should be grateful for organizations like the Muskoka Watershed Council. Their experts have selected native, low-maintenance grasses and shrubs and a few trees for our plan. This plan allows a sustainable approach to shoreline restoration. As the plants mature, they will form a low-profile vegetative buffer that will not take away the views of the lake. The buffer will extend from approximately 20 feet from the boat launch and taper to taller trees near Creekside Park. The planting plan is designated based on the land's characteristics identified during the site visits. Plants were chosen based on the soil and lake conditions on the property. The number of plants chosen for each planting compartment takes into account a square meter area of space as well as the amount of current vegetation coverage. The plants will utilize the soil now in place. Compartment A starts approximately 20 feet from the boat launch area and extends at the first hydropole. Compartment B goes hydropole to hydropole in the parking lot. Compartment C goes hydropole to Creekside Park. This totals more than 220 feet. The plan also proposes the construction of a gravel-filled channel or French drain, which will run parallel to the planting area. This feature will intercept runoff and enhance the plant buffer's effectiveness. Granite boulders will be placed among the plants near the parking lot edge to deter parking in the water and protect the plants from being destroyed. This plan ensures that no parking spaces are lost as the surface area stays the same in the parking lot. Signage could be used to inform the public of additional parking options. An example could be the community hall that is located close by. Here are the cost pages of our project. First cost page is the planting plan page. So Muskoka Watershed has come up with this proposal, and there's actually 99 plants in this plan. And the cost for Muskoka Watershed for these plants is $1,127, which is very reasonable for that many plants. The second page of our costing is a starting point for discussion. We need to talk about the funding and the installation of the French drain, granite boulders, and mulch. We really hope for a collaborative effort on our project. We would like the project to begin in spring or fall of 2025. Is the town able to assist us with this through the Public Works Department? Provide materials for the French drain, granite boulders, and mulch? Machines, labor, or does the Murray Lake Association need to rely on local contractors and donations, grants for materials and machinery and labor? On March the 4th, Jill, Rebecca, and I had a very productive meeting with the Town of Huntsville staff, Randy Bissonette, Director of Operations, and Tina Scott Burns, Manager of Parks and Cemeteries. There seemed to be a willingness for a collaborative effort on our project, and we are very grateful for that. As it stands now, the Murray Lake Association is prepared to cover the cost of the plants, as outlined in the Muskoka Watershed Plan. The plant installation would be a joint effort involving Muskoka Watershed, Rebecca and her staff, Murray Lake Association members, local volunteers, and we would like, if possible, the Town of Huntsville staff to help us. The Town of Huntsville will assume responsibility for ongoing plant maintenance. Native plants require very low maintenance. By restoring the shoreline and implementing these changes, we can ensure that Port Sydney Beach remains a beautiful and sustainable destination for future generations, while safeguarding the health of Murray Lake. We respectfully ask for your support in approving this proposal and assist in any way possible with materials, labor, and machinery for this project to be completed. Thank you.
Look at that. Thank you very much, Dean, for the presentation. And you have a minute and 43 seconds left. Just saying. It's okay. That's great.
Would you like me to do
That's
a short dance or something?
Well,
Well,
if you thought it would help.
would it help? Oh, yeah, you're right. It may not help.
It may not help. Right. Thank you. I know there will be tons of questions. I really do appreciate this presentation, though, and Rebecca Willison is here as well.
She is,
And you
yes.
made reference. She didn't bring her umpteen staff with her, though.
There's seats available.
Yeah, I
Could
know.
have.
I do know that when you made reference to, with support from Rebecca with the planting, she
Right.
does this. This is her specialty, and
is,
you're really
yes.
fortunate to have her with
And
you.
actually, when we had our meeting, Tina and Rebecca got along very well, and it was good.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
No, they
I
were
would-
talking on the same page. It was good.
All right, Councillor Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Worship, and Dean and Jill and Rebecca. Thanks for bringing this forward and working with staff. Long overdue. I think we're at a critical point of the health of our lakes, and to allow trailers with grease in their hubs and who knows what else on them
Right.
into the water doesn't seem to be a great benefit. So I think that if we lose the quality of our water, we're going to have no recreation. So when is the critical turning point? I think we're past it. So I welcome this proposal, and I will definitely support it. I know you and I have had many discussions, and you've been working on this for a long time. You realize how much effort's involved in something like this, so I appreciate your efforts again. It's going to end up with some logistical challenges, though, with trailers and parking and weddings at the hall and
I know.
and parking for the playground. And so staff's going to have a lot of work to do as a result of this proposal. And like I said, I definitely support it, and I look forward to us working it out and supporting it. So thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Fitzgerald. Deputy Mayor Armour.
Well, thank you, Worship. Just a very quick one. Thanks for the presentation. You mentioned spring or fall, I believe.
Yes, I
Does
did.
it really matter with the plants? Are they better to be planted in the spring so they get a root base, or with the
Well-
fall, will they survive the winter?
In my deputation, I briefly talked about having a meeting with Tina and Greg. Rick? Randy. It was Randy. Sorry. I could have elaborated on that part. If I could elaborate, if that's okay. It seemed like the fall was better for the town of Huntsville staff. The spring is full on for the Parks and Cemetery Division. That's what Tina kind of told us. So we sort of said fall would be fine with us, and fall's good for the plants too. So that's kind of where we are.
Good to know, for sure. Councillor Renwick.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you for the report. It was very interesting. The first slide, Dean, that you brought forward, and
Yes.
it looked like there was erosion happening there. And maybe, I don't know if we can pull that slide
Right.
back up again.
Sure.
Is that where you're proposing to put the plants, in that specific area? Or is it?
We'll go for this.
Yeah.
Well, actually,
But it was the opening slide that you had. That.
Right.
So-
that's pretty well shows the whole line. As you can see in the first part of the area, there is some green still. In the last part, there's no green left.
Right.
Basically, the green used to be extended all the way to the boat ramp. Over the last 20 years, it's got worse and worse, and since the pandemic, it's pretty bad now.
So if I may just
But
follow up.
people, when it gets really busy, people are parking trailers even on the area that's green there now.
That's
the-
what, I guess that was my question. So
Yes.
that particular area, we
Yes.
don't want people to park there, and if that's revegetated,
Yep.
then it'll stop them.
If we can,
Yeah, okay.
possibly, there's a couple better slides that show you. See right there, see? Yeah, that's the launch closest. Yeah. And it just takes one person to start parking in the water, and then other people think it's okay, and then they just keep parking. So if we could stop that, that'd be good.
Okay. Yeah, Councillor Schumacher.
No question, just a comment. Thank you, Dean, Jill, Rebecca, up there for doing this. I mean, yeah, as a longtime resident of that area, I know how well it is used. To Councillor Fitzgerald's point, we do rent out the hall on like some Saturdays, which I know are big boating days. So whether or not we work with town this is not the day you could park there, we'll have to definitely work out the logistics.
Right.
And working with other user groups, I mean, I know the Lions Club does their rink there. It wouldn't impact where, like, if we start to plant in the fall and then the rink goes in, it's not going to impact the planting because it's sort of away from the parking area, correct?
Right.
Yeah, okay. No, good. And I mean, I'm sure there are other user groups that would help offset your costs even for plants and things too. So
That's good.
speaking from maybe the Utterson Community Club, although after that last presentation, we might have to fundraise for our hall.
Yes. I'm thinking. That's a very good
Yes.
point. Thank you both and Rebecca for being here. I personally love the collaborative approach to this. It makes all the sense in the world. And I think we will be dealing with this under new business later on in the meeting. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
All right. So moving to our second deputation, we've got Hallie Glover from the Huntsville Lake of Bays Chamber of Commerce. We also are joined by a number of other members. I'm first going to ask Lauren McDermott if you wouldn't mind doing a bit of an intro. Barb and Rachel, sorry, you're here too. You're here too.
Okay.
They are the cheerleaders in the gallery, I know. Perfect.
Okay, through you, Mayor Alcock. So I'm delighted to introduce the Huntsville Lake of Bays Chamber of Commerce, a vital partner in strengthening our community through collaboration and supporting local businesses. So a special thank you to Kelly Haywood, whose 20 years of leadership as executive director, and Torrin Suddaby, with over 12 years of dedication, have left a lasting impact. And we're grateful that they continue to promote our town through the new tourism entity, Explore Huntsville. Now leading the chamber into an exciting new chapter is Hallie Clover, our new executive director, here with me today. Some of you may have already met her. And with vision and dedication, Hallie, along with her fantastic team, including Barb Bloomfield and Rhonda Christensen and many others as part of your team, are guiding the chamber forward. So collaboration remains at the heart of the chamber's work, and I'm excited to see how we will continue to strengthen our community together. Hallie will now share insights on the chamber's 2024 accomplishments and plans for 2025, and I will now hand it over to Hallie.
Thank you, Lauren. Thank you so much, Mayor Alcock and Council, for having me today. And I just want to say thank you to Lauren. She has been such a support to me in my first, I've just come up on my first year in the role, and she's been wonderful to work with and a huge support to me, and Riva as well, back there now. But thank you so much for everything you do. I'm so glad that Kelly mentioned that at the AGM yesterday. Okay, so I just wanted to start off with, so we're looking back at our previous fiscal, so our fiscal year ends in September, end of September, so we're going back a little bit here now. So I'll just touch on sort of our accomplishments and things we've been up to. If you can click through. Is it clicking? There we go. So I really just wanted to, for this slide, I wanted to talk about sort of the word of the year. Last year, the word of the year was transition, and it was a big one. You know, as Lauren said, Kelly was in the role for 20 years, and so it was a big change for the chamber world. You know, onboarding myself and getting comfortable in the role as well. We were still, for the first part of the year, we were doing tourism marketing for the community still. So it was kind of the transition to Explore Huntsville. So we kind of were straddling both worlds for a while there. But this year, and it's come up already in this meeting, this year's word for me is collaboration. And that's really where we're going to move forward. You know, a lot of our organizations, they are run by one or two people. So we need to pool our resources, our human resources, as best we can. And recently, there's been some incredible examples of that. Notably, I think you heard about it on Monday night, about the tariff response team that we've kind of been a part of. So that's an incredible example of collaboration across all of Muskoka. We've got all the chamber teams, we've got the economic development teams in the district involved in that. And, you know, our chamber is a member of the Canadian Chamber of Commerce. So we've been able to really, you know, contribute some incredible resources for that page. And thank you to Jeff and the team at the district for spearheading that and allowing our business community to have such an incredible resource. Oh, just on that, no, you can leave it. But the other example I wanted to talk about for collaboration was the River Mill Rink, which was a huge collaboration. You know, the town staff was incredible to work with. in planning. You know, we have some bumps along the road and some learning to do, but, you know, funding from HMATA and then the BIA and Huntsville Festival coming up with incredible activations. There was probably thousands of people down in that park all winter. So really proud of that project, and we're looking forward to doing it again. And just a shout out to Doug Profit, if he's listening to this. He is, you know, an incredible cheerleader for our community and worked tirelessly. And he's actually currently right down there right now tearing it down. So I'm going to bring him coffee after this. So here is another, so we're just going to touch on some of our community projects and events, business networking, and community partnerships and economic development for the last year. Yep, next. So here's the rink in action. That was last year when it wasn't refrigerated, which we only had about 10 days of skating. So we had 3 months or more this year, which was fantastic. So going back, talking about the tree lighting downtown, we worked well with the BIA on that one, and they've taken it over, and it's become such an incredible community event. Grand openings of Rivermill Rink project, which has just been fantastic. Again, the partnership with the town staff has been wonderful. They're so easy to work with and help us along the way. The Snowfest, last year we did 1-day event, which was a huge event. We saw about 2,000 people at that 1-day event. But this year we decided to stretch it over a 6-week period. Thanks to the BIA for added funding from that and Hamada. So we had, you know, DJ nights and movie nights, and it was so much fun. And thanks to Rachel for being there every single day of the activations. She was wonderful. The Group of 7 mural gallery. So we were tasked to sort of facilitate some funding from both the BIA and Hamada to rejuvenate that asset that we have. So it's a beauty, you know, I know that we see them all the time and we kind of, you know, don't pay much attention to them maybe, but it's an incredible asset for our community that we should be proud of. And it's Jerry Lantang put a lot of work into that many years ago, and it's something we need to hang on to. So we had, I think, 13 murals, you know, touched up, and we painted some new ones, added some new ones, did a new brochure and map so that tourists can come and see the gallery. We also added a QR coded virtual tour. So we replaced all the plaques so people can pull out their phone and see Jerry talking about each individual painting, which is incredible. So thank you to everyone involved in that. And then, of course, our signature events, the Maple Festival and the Beer Festival, which are coming up very soon, and the Muskoka Music Crawl campfire sessions, which were all wonderful successes. Rain or shine, the Maple Festival, you know, people come out. It's the first festival of the year, outdoor festival, and so people come out of hiding, and they love the sweet smell of maple. So, next slide. Thanks. There's just some pictures, some fun pictures, so you can see all the umbrellas for maple. I don't know what we're gonna get this year with the weather outside, but it's a wonderful way to fill the downtown. And Beer Fest as well in Rivermill Park is just a wonderful activation. The Experience Ontario, Anniversaries Grant was the completion of the beautiful mural on the side of PharmaSave. Which was done by Tim Webb, sort of encapsulating the mural gallery and telling a bit more of a story from a different angle. So that was a wonderful addition as well. Next slide. So we will continue to do this in the future, but we did a successful event in collaboration with the Muskoka Small Business Center. And this was a wonderful event on funding for entrepreneurs and businesses on SEO and sort of marketing and things like that. So it was a really, again, collaborative event with Lauren and the Chamber and Muskoka Small Business Center, as well as many people that came to join us, and the YMCA as well. So another great event, and you're going to see more of that happening with our chamber moving forward. And there's Mayor Alcock there, one of our lovely ribbon cuttings. That's at the new Hilton. So we've been doing many more of these to celebrate business openings and collaborating with businesses and supporting them through their opening stages. So this one was a fun one to be a part of as well. So we started sort of with the Doctor recruitment, we saw it from a more fun lens, and we got to do scavenger hunts downtown. Amazing Race, we called them. So we really wanted to showcase our downtown and our businesses in an interesting and fun way for the ROMP and NOSM students that come. So I worked well with Lauren on that to create sort of an exciting day to showcase our community. We had them paddleboarding across the river to Canvas and all kinds of things. And we included the gallery as well in that. So it was a lot of fun. We will continue to help the municipality in that recruitment aspect. The job fair, I don't know if you can click the videos that go, I don't know. Might not work, but that's okay. So the Huntsville Job Fair, so that's coming up again April 10th. So we collaborate with the YMCA on that. It's gone for several years now, and we have anywhere from 45 to 65 employers come and join us. And last year we had over 500 job seekers come through the door. So it's an incredible employment resource for our community, and we continue to work with the YMCA on that one. Visitor services. So this is part of our MOU with the municipality. So many of you probably saw Johanna last summer down in the box office. So we saw over 12,000 walk-in visitors coming to chat with her last summer. So lots of engagement. So we keep metrics to sort of find out what they're looking for and things like that. So she was wonderful, and we do sort of added activations at the Summit Center if there's a big hockey tournament on, things like that. So lots of engagement with the visitors still. So we'll continue that. And I just wanted to, on that note, I wanted to sort of this is looking ahead to our networking, but I wanted to touch on a few of the plans that we have with Lauren and the economic development team with the new MOU. So we're going to be really doing, this is a really, again, a transition for the chamber. So we're transitioning back into really true support for businesses, not just tourism businesses, like we maybe have been seen as in the past. So we're going to be working with them on many business seminars that will develop and maybe in this environment stand the course through this uncertain times for our businesses. So we will be hosting many seminars, collaborating with the YMCA. Some of you were at the incredible event last week, so more of that to come. We're looking to host business fireside chats with elected officials, getting the business community in front of our elected officials to really understand how they're going to work for the business community. We're going to be doing quarterly touch points with different industries in our area with Lauren and her team, and sort of meeting them where they're at and finding out how we can support them further. We'll be continue to do the Amazing Race with the students. We'll be working we'll be gathering commercial lease spaces available for attraction of businesses, things like that. So lots of exciting new business development in the MOU, which I'm really looking forward to working with Lauren and her team. And then on the sort of more fun side of things, we're doing, we're approaching our networking a bit differently. So we're sort of invigorating some excitement into it. I think all of us in the room and a lot of our business owners, we work day in and day out, and we don't actually get to enjoy some of the things that are right in our backyard. So we're going to be bringing some networking that's, it's called experience networking, we're calling it. Yeah, you can click through. So we're going to be doing experience networking where, we might take them out paddleboarding with AO or treetop trekking. So we're going to bring together business leaders in a more fun way. We're also going to be infusing networking and really showcasing it into our signature events. So, all of these events that we host, we are really bringing together the business community and developing a network that really, and as someone who's lived here my whole life or most of my life, that's what makes this community thrive is our working together and community. So just invigorating and showcasing that all these events really have a networking aspect to them. We're looking forward to potentially bringing back the Business Awards Gala, which used to be called the President's Ball, I think, but we'll be doing sort of a recognition of our businesses in the fall. there's a bit on the experience networking, so maple tapping, boiling, all kinds of fun stuff. So really involving our local businesses and experiences and showcasing that to the business community so that they can go and spread the word. I wanted to play this video because it's kind of depressing outside, but it's just a little, this is an ad that we did before it was Explore Huntsville, but just to showcase our downtown and what can be possible in the near future. So that's pretty much it from me.
Holly, thank you so much. I just sit through this whole presentation and I grin because of all of the events, and I certainly didn't go to all of the events.
Yeah.
You'd be a full-time job doing that, but I attended a whole lot of them, and it blows my mind. On a really important note, though, I think the transitioning and what you're talking about there from not just businesses that are involved in tourism, but all businesses.
Yes.
And that was reflected last week
Yes.
at that event.
Yes,
that
we
you-
had over 80 employers, 13 sectors, so it was an incredible, coming
They're
together.
engaged,
Yes,
right?
yes,
And
and they need things like that. So we're looking to bring them.
Well,
that
it
to them.
couldn't be timelier,
Yes,
right?
exactly,
It couldn't be timelier.
exactly.
So I feel like all of you, and I look up at the gallery too, all of you have your finger on the pulse as to what we need to be doing, and you're also making it a whole lot of fun. So people who do that, I am in total awe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions for our guests? Councillor Renwick.
Thank you, Your Worship. Not so much a question, but a comment. Congratulations, Hallie, on your
Thank
first year. And I think what you spoke about at the beginning, the partnerships that you have with economic development, with the BIA, with the festival, it just shows. And it really shows in the events that are happening in downtown and in our community. So congratulations and keep up the good work. And your mom would be so proud of you to say
thank
that.
you.
When I see your face, I just think, wow.
Oh, thank you.
Councillor Morrison.
Thank you, Mayor Alcock and through. Yeah, I concur with what Helena is saying, that the chamber has been so valuable to this community for so many years. And it's one of those organizations have ebbs and flows, but the chamber never has. From Carolyn Goldring, right? And how do you replace Carolyn? Well, then you get Kelly. How do you replace Kelly? So it's just been ongoing, and a lot of us have had experience on the board. And it's really like you guys are one big family with the festival in HMATA, and it's just everyone pulling in the same direction. We're so lucky as a town to have that.
Yeah.
And but the one thing I want to comment on, the rink downtown this year, I know at HMATA we funded the chilling unit, and there was a lot of debate about whether it was going to be worth it or not.
Yeah.
We had friends here from Australia
Yeah.
over Christmas, and they were there every single day.
Yeah.
Every day, they couldn't get enough of it.
Good.
And when they were there, it was packed.
Good.
So high impact, a lot of work for you guys.
Yes. Yes.
But I'm looking forward to seeing more stuff
Worth
like
it.
that.
Yeah.
But I do have a quick question. Membership-wise, we have had more businesses coming. Are you seeing a steady balance of memberships, or is it going up? Is it
We
going
are
down?
holding steady. Members sort of leave for many reasons. They might be closing, they might be moving, but we're holding steady. We're hoping that, with this transition, it won't just be tourism businesses that are looking to become members. So we're really going to showcase all of the affinity programs that we have, all of the benefits, and then hosting these wonderful events with the YMCA and economic development. I think they'll see the value, and it will continue to grow. So, I showed, the ribbon cuttings and all those nice grand openings, but, in these uncertain times, meeting the business when they need us the most is going to really be most impactful. It's easy to show up when they're, have the wine and cheese for their grand opening, but they're really needing us now in this environment. So we're going to be there for them and find out what they need and how to best to support. Yeah.
Oh, Councillor Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Your Worship, and it's hard to get a word in when people get to go before you, but as everyone else has said, I certainly agree with. We've been very fortunate and look forward to the direction you're all going to take it, and I look forward to it. So keep up the good work.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, I think we've done it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so
Okay.
much.
All right, with that, is it time for a quick break, for like 5-minute break before we go over to divisional? Is that good? 5-minute break? All right, we're out. Okay, welcome back, everybody. That was a fairly long 5-minute break, but that always happens. And with that, I am going to turn over the meeting at this point to Councillor Morrison to take over as chair for corporate services.
Thank you, Mayor Alcock, and buckle up. It's an FCS marathon here for the next little bit. So our team will guide you through that. The first one is 6.1.1, and this is for information only. And it's Alicia Horn and Julia McKenzie going to report on report number Corp 2025-20 Building Condition Assessment and Appraisal Update. With that, I'll pass it over.
So as you know from Zach's presentation this morning, the town procured the services of Accent Building Sciences, Inc. in 2024 to complete building condition assessments and insurance appraisals on town properties. So the insurance appraisals were completed on 52 properties, which resulted in an overall increase in the appraised value of about 89%. So the town previously completed insurance appraisals over 10 years prior in 2013. So an increase in values was expected. These updated values were used when completing the 2025 insurance renewal, which resulted in an increase in the town's insurance premiums related to property by $115,749.
So I think it was a really detailed report this morning that we got from our consultant, and it's not meant to be scary. It's a really good tool that we have to use going forward. So we're not making decisions on anything about this data immediately, but it will be used for a building block for several things, for a review of the town properties, updates to asset management plans. It'll help feed future budgets, and can also be used for looking at accessibility projects, and look to see where we should be focusing our attention for grants as well when we're looking at those projects. What was presented today was just a summary. We actually have really detailed sheets or data for each of the buildings, which is really exciting. They're very, very detailed. And what's really great about it is it identifies if it's an accessibility issue, if it's a repair issue, if it's a long-term, that kind of thing. So it's really great information. So we will be putting this into our asset management software so that we have, it's part of our inventory. And again, we'll be using this going forward. I did just want to note overall, the total replacement costs identified in that summary was about 173 million. And last time we did the AMP, which was just last year, we identified about 40 million. So it is going to be a significant change to our finance strategy. So I just wanted to put that out there before that comes to you in the near future.
Thank you, Director McKenzie. Any questions or comments? We'll go to Councillor Schumacher first.
Thank you, through you. And so, yes, Julia, you, through you to Julia. You mentioned, informing how we do, like, I know we're looking at our accessibility plan, obviously, and doing reports. We just had a bit of an update yesterday. So taking that information, can we then adopt that to the accessibility plan when it comes to like facilities and where the needs are? The reason I say this is because I get that we don't have the money to do things, but they are a barrier in the community. So keeping that noted somewhere. I know we said no to the Civic Center project. We took that off the strategic plan because it wasn't a direction of council. But keeping in mind, there's still barriers when it comes to accessibility. So these things still need to be captured somewhere, knowing we don't have the money to do all of the accessibility pieces. I just want to make sure that it's captured, whether that's in the accessibility plan or just in your asset management plan, or is it captured in both, I guess.
I'll try to answer this, and if anybody wants to correct me, they can. There's a lot of information in there, and it's very componentized. So I think what we would be looking at is putting that data into our asset management plan, and then being able to, not tomorrow, but in the future, being able to run reports on that and be able to pull that information so that we can build that into our budgets, maybe bring it forward to the accessibility plan. Right now, you wouldn't want that raw data to be sitting in that plan because it would be very, very detailed. So maybe us taking that back and seeing how we can bring it forward. That makes sense? I'm looking at my counterpart behind me.
All right, over to Councillor Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Chair Morrison, and thanks for all the work. I commented, the lady said how much work had been done to prepare for this, and they said, wait till the next one. So, sorry about your workload. I'm wondering if there's ever been any discussion, or is there something coming down the pipe where all these municipalities join together and form a pool and become self-insured? There's such a large proportion of this insurance that we pay is for profit to these insurance companies. I know the province self-insures, and if there's ever been any discussions or any appetite to pursue it, because it seems to me that it's going to become a greater cost, and the risk seems to be very minimal. So just wondering, has it ever been brought up? Has it ever been mentioned?
So in terms of self-insuring, we have, our deductible has been increased to $50,000 now for any issue. So we would be self-insuring for under 50,000, whereas under the past it was 25. In terms of overall insurance, doing a pooled insurance, just had a discussion yesterday with my counterparts in Muskoka, and we were talking about that very issue. The County of Simcoe is looking at doing self-insured insurance. It's a very expensive process to go through to build that, because you need to have risk managers, and you need to build an insurance company basically. They have, I think, 23 municipalities that are joining that, so it might make sense to do that. We would only have, if we were Muskoka, we would only be just our small group. So in talking to the other treasurers in Muskoka, it might be difficult. It would be probably not feasible to do that with our size. Does that answer your?
Just a follow-up. Yeah, it does answer the question. We're looking into it at least, and there's benefit in numbers in being insured. But, the province looks at it from a point of view where they're totally self-insured. And I don't know at some point, it's going to be financially beneficial for all these municipalities to self-insure, I think, at the rate I see these increases coming in my 10 years around this table. Like I said, the risk is minimal, and you think about all the claims we've had and the money we paid out in 10 years, that has to be something that one of the associations, one of the groups is looking into or should look into. That's all.
Thank you, Councillor Fitzgerald. I'm very intrigued by that, actually. Thinking of, I'd like to even get some stats on how often we have to use that insurance or file claims, because it's just the insurance for the buildings, right? It's not including cyber insurance, all these other things. You're just talking building insurance?
For the amount that I quoted, that's just for building insurance. That's just the increase in our premiums for the building portion.
Yeah.
But the pools, when municipalities go together in a pool for insurance, is generally for their full portfolio. So that'd
Okay.
be for their CGL, their property. I don't know how you would do cyber on your own. I guess you
Yeah.
would self-insure that and you would just eat the cost. But yeah, generally it's for your full insured portfolio, not just property.
Okay. I think there's merit for it. I'll go back to Councillor Fitzgerald.
One last follow-up. So is it FCM? Like, there's how many municipalities? At some point, there's going to be a tipping point, and it's going to be cost-effective for us to do. I think of all the profit the insurance companies make, now those municipalities will have an opportunity to invest that and create further financial growth. So it just seems like something that's going to happen in the future, or needs to.
Yeah. And I just quickly, I think the comparison with pet insurance, right? Just for an example, you can pay $100 and some odd a month. We did it once. The only time we needed it was teeth work, not covered. And so the next pet, we just put the $100 and some odd a month into an account. And if you ever need to use it, you do. Otherwise, you have that money at the end. So similar to this, you may never use this insurance, but you have to have it. So you have to, it'd be more like putting money away into your own program so to cover. I think there's merit there. I do. Mayor Alcock?
Thank you, Councillor Morrison. I think it's great that you have that fund to set aside for your pet insurance. I just wanted to note that. But actually, in all seriousness, I echo what you just said about Councillor Fitzgerald. I think that's a really interesting suggestion. And I would think, though, that the discussions around this probably have occurred at AMO, correct? Or are you aware if they've started looking at that, or just from a policy perspective?
So or sorry, not AMO, but LAS, which is the division
Right,
of AMO,
right,
their business
right.
arm.
Yep.
They've looked at it. And I'd have to bring back more information, but it's not a model that they're going to pursue.
Okay.
It is extremely costly.
Yeah.
And it's hard to manage because you're managing other people's losses too, right? Other municipalities'
Right.
losses. So I think right now to date there's only 2 groups in Ontario that have a pool, with Simcoe being the 3rd potential one.
Okay.
And I think the other 2 have been in existence for quite some time, so they're quite mature.
Okay.
But I don't know. I know the CEOs have also had some discussion about it as well. But
Okay.
certainly, if council wants us to put it into a future budget to do a feasibility study, but you would first have to, you wouldn't even touch this until you did a feasibility study
Right.
on it.
I would just think just further exploration at this point, if there are any discussions around that, might be useful. Quick comment. I just wanted to say that the presentation this morning and your report as well, I found so interesting. It is so important, and it's great when you actually, it's a bit like a puzzle. You can, you have allocated over $1 million towards this project that might actually move it from fair to good, that sort of thing. And it rationalizes all of the decisions you make around financing our assets, right? And so I really appreciate it, and that's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Councillor Fitzgerald?
Yeah, just one last comment. I don't think I would ever suggest that staff at our level start pursuing something like that. I would, like you suggested, AMO, or Julie suggested AMO or FCM, one of those groups. But I just see it in the future, and I see potential for greater returns rather than just insurance premiums for municipalities all across the province.
I agree, and I agree with Director McKenzie. If you create something that it takes more staff than the money you'd save, then obviously you do the cost benefit analysis and see if it's up. And I like that idea, doing it through delegations at AMO, et cetera. It makes a lot of sense. Anybody else with any comments or questions? I guess I'll just close with one comment. I think what we're seeing here today is just how challenging it is for staff to manage our assets. I could not do the job, and luckily we have people that can. But I think it also begs the question as we move forward, what assets do we absolutely have to own? What assets do we actually need? What are redundant? Because every building we own has to be insured, has to have capital asset management plan funds, and it just puts more pressure on our staff. And as we heard from Zach today, it's not getting any cheaper to replace this. So for the public, I hope you realize when these guys are coming to get more money into reserves and everything else, and it raises taxes, the communities that don't do that set themselves up for failure. So we're lucky to have the team that we have and putting us in a good position. I think that's it for this report, and I think you guys are done for now. And we're going to bring up Suzanne Diller for an information-only report. And this is report number Corp 2025-21. It could be fun. The 2024 Council Remuneration and Expense Report.
Thank you, Chair Morrison. This is an information-only report. I don't have any comments to really add besides what's in the report, so I'm available for any questions.
Question is a report on expenditures from members of council. Over to Deputy Mayor Armour.
Thanks, Councillor Morrison. I noticed my expenses are rather high. I'd just like to explain why they're a little high is because I've been the chauffeur for the last few conferences. So I've been the benefit of getting travel allowances for stuff like that. So normally I believe it's split between those who would ride with you. And so just so everybody knows that it's just because I've been the chauffeur lately. So but we are saving money by not sending 4 cars to one conference or paying parking 4 times. So it is an advantage.
Yeah, it certainly is. It's not like Deputy Mayor Armour is drinking $20 orange juices like that lady did at the event, so it's actually justified costs and doing good things at those conferences. That's good. Any other questions or comments on this report? That, you're off the hook. Perfect. All right, moving right along. Actually, it's still you.
It's still, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not going anywhere. It's you for I think it's you for a while. So we are now moving on to an information only report, report number Corp 2025-22, capital project update 2025-1.
Thank you, Chair Morrison. So this is our first capital update for 2025. I'll just note that there's approximately 1.4 million over already, but that is a reasonable overage because they're carry forward projects from 2024. So there's items that we just didn't have time to get completed for a variety of different reasons in 2024. So they've been added to this list now.
And it's a really good and thorough report. Any questions or comments on this one? All right, we'll move on to the next one. And let me go back to the page. So this one, I actually do have a motion. This is report number Corp 2025-18, Financial Reserve Policy, Repeal and Replace. I have a motion moved by Deputy Mayor Armour, seconded by Mayor Alcock. It is recommended that the Financial Reserves Policy attached to report Corp 2025-18 be approved, and further that resolution GC 86-21 be rescinded, and further that the amendment to bylaw 2022-13 be presented to council for final consideration. With that, I'll pass it over to you guys.
Thank you. We actually have a bit of a presentation to include with the explanation of the policy changes. Thank you. We've done this, we actually have a bit of a training / policy explanation, so I think they'll bring that up here in a second. Okay, so this is the reserve and obligatory funds policy update training presentation we've prepared. So we just want to go over a couple things before we get into the policy update. Why do we have reserves? The types of reserves that the town has, going into a bit more detail on general and obligatory ones, requirements to create the reserve, some reporting information and funding sources, and then we'll talk about the policy update changes. Why does the town have reserves? So the reserves help ensure that the town of Huntsville can effectively manage unexpected challenges and maintain essential infrastructure over the long term without causing significant fluctuations to the tax rate. Go ahead.
So the financial reserve policy was set by council in 2021. This policy governs the establishment and maintenance of municipal reserves and obligatory reserves as a financial tool for the municipality. It also establishes guidance to maintain adequate levels of reserve balances to mitigate current and future risks. For example, the working fund reserves has set targets for maintaining this reserve balance with no less than 5% and no more than 20% of budgeted operating expenditures for the current year.
General reserves refer to funds that have been set aside by council resolution or allocation for intended purpose, but not restricted by provincial or municipal legislation. These may be held together with all the other reserves in the municipality in our general bank account. So municipalities have the most flexibility in the use of these funds. They can be funded through budget allocations approved by council and can come from budget surpluses, property tax levies, or other revenue. Municipalities establish general reserves with the intention of using these funds for a variety of purposes. That could be paying for future operating expenses, settling known or anticipated or possible expenses, addressing single person single-purpose items such as community donations or legal agreement requirements, and financing capital projects or special projects.
I just want to add, we quite often get asked, like, can we do this with reserves, or can council do this with reserves? And it is really council's reserves. So even though something can be set aside for a certain purpose, council has that discretion to change that. I'm not suggesting that we do that, but it is at council's discretion. Nope. These are just some of the requirements that we have included in the town reserve policy. So we just the name, description, and purpose. And the purpose is really important because sometimes we've kind of lost track of what those purposes were for. So it's good that we're getting better at documenting that. Targeted balances, any reporting requirements, date of elimination. So some are actually, we have planned to eliminate those reserves after certain projects done, that kind of thing. And just any special considerations.
The different types of reserves that the town have can be asset replacement reserves, project reserves, stabilization reserves, and working fund reserves. So asset replacement reserves are established for the purpose of smoothing out potentially uneven nature and non-routine asset replacement from year to year, and plan for sustainable funding for the town's asset management plan. Project reserve is established for a purpose of funding a significant future event or a series of expenditures, deferral of projects to the next fiscal year, or a reserve that tracks financial performance of a specific functional area. So that could be like a library or BIA. Stabilization reserves are established for the purpose of smoothing out cyclical variances due to nature of certain town-run programs. And working fund reserves are established to provide sufficient cash flow for annual operations to eliminate the requirement to enter into temporary in-year borrowing.
I should say we're happy to answer any questions as we go along too, if anybody has any. Oh, sorry. So these next couple of slides are just a visual of the reserves that we do have, and we thought it was important to put it in the presentation. I don't know if you, I don't think we'll go through all, do you want to go through all of them? I don't think we'll go through all of them, but it is there for your reference that you do have it. So for example, the first one is the audiovisual reserve. We've just got the balance in there, the unaudited balance. And the purpose is for replacement of AV equipment. So we did have money that goes into that from advertising revenue, and then money that goes out for that purpose. So each of these reserves kind of has its own specific little program attached to it.
Sure. Thank you, Chair Morrison. Just to confirm then, so the fire equipment, it's negative 168,000. Like we don't have any money in that reserve this time, correct? Like we're actually negative.
That's the unaudited projection for 2024 year end at this moment.
Thank
you. Yeah, and I will mention that we do have some that are in a negative. Overall, our reserves are in a positive situation, but we do know that some have gone into negative balances, and that we would plan to increase those balances and that's because sometimes there's a very significant purchase.
Julie, quickly, the one with fleet, and I know Shane's here, is that mainly because we decided to go ahead with the purchase of the extra vehicle a year ahead of time? 2 vehicles, yeah, and we decided instead of buying 1 and 1, we went with 2. Yeah. That is what it is, okay, yeah, okay, good.
Was that for 2025? 25-26. Sorry, just to clarify, I think that was a 25-26 decision, not this is the 24 balance. So I think this is because of, I think we were planning to have an overage in the fleet capital. Just to note too, when we bring our year-end report where we've finalized all the balances, we'll be bringing this back, and then we can go through this in detail on the balances. We were hoping not to we wanted to put the balance in there just so you had a visual of it, but we will bring that back at the next meeting. So again, a lot of these are IT replacement. So that is one where we've had some significant expenses in 2024. We've got the library buildings. that one, library capital. So the library building, it's important to note that that one is under the facilities department, and then the library capital, the next three are actually under the library board. So even though they are under the town, generally the library board would look after those ones, although it still is a reserve of council. So ultimately, council does have the decision on those, but. So Nancy looked like she had a question, so I was pausing. Again, these are just some other capital reserves. So we've got parks, roads, recreation, leisure, and Algonquin Theatre. And you also see on under the funding source, we've put where some of the revenue, because not all of it comes from property tax. So under the parks facilities, for example, we do put money aside every year for the capital funding, but we also put dock permit and lease revenue into that reserve each year. So that's just another kind of funding source. And most of our capital reserves that we've identified, they do get investment income that comes from our one investment fund. We allocate those back to those, and we'll be bringing that balance forward next month as well, so you can see exactly what totals are going in there. And then the town asset replacement, that's a reserve that's quite often used to fund kind of one-off capital projects that are kind of new, and that's from the sale. That money comes from the sale of surplus land. So I keep hitting my computer, not the. Again, affordable housing, that's one that was set aside. It was funds that have been set aside for affordable housing. We don't have a specific use for that yet, but we could use that if we had too much, like over our budgeted amount in 1 year. We also, the next one is Aspen Community Center. So that one's for, that one's actually the community center's funds, but it's held by the town. So they do use that to fund community hall projects. Then there's a BIA, the couple of BIA funds, and those again are held, those are the BIA's funds, but the town has overall oversight of those. And I believe we had a question about the BIA downtown enhancement, and they also use this fund. So if they're over in 1 year or under in 1 year, they would draw to and from that, and they would bring any of that through a motion through their board. The Brunel Locks Park, this is quite an old one where we had money set aside, and we've been using that. We've been drawing that down each year, and we've been using that to fund some maintenance projects at the Brunel Locks. And then community healthcare, this is one that's been a donation that we've been getting ongoing, so that money's still sitting there. We did have a motion at one point to move it to the healthcare, but then they had funding, so that's not being used for that anymore.
Thank you, Chair Morrison. Just a quick question then. The ongoing funding source is identified, but they're not actually identified for the locks. Where is that funding coming from to offset the maintenance cost of the park annually, the Brunel Locks?
I'm trying to go back in my memory, and our CO might remember, but there was a one lump sum that was set aside, and I can't remember if it was from the purchase of something or if it was a donation. I can't remember off the top of my head. It was a one-time, and it's probably over the past 15 years it's been drawn down.
Okay, so there's no other additional
So
funding
once
that's
it's
going
gone,
into
it's
that.
going to be done.
Yeah.
Sometimes we remember these little tidbits, but I can't remember that. The community improvement, that's for the community improvement grants that we give out. So that's been set aside for that. And that was some unspent money from 1 year that was set aside. So that one's not being replenished either. Corporate information, corporate software, those are to fund future projects. The election reserve, that's money that we use to smooth out the cost of the election. So we put money into that reserve every year, and then when the election comes, we draw down from it so that there's not a big spike in costs for the election year.
Thank you, Chair Morrison. On the community improvement reserve, no specific plan for spending and no ongoing funding. So how would we access that? How do we access that if we wanted to spend that 40,000?
So right now, we do have an amount in the budget for the community improvement program. So
okay.
we would use that money first. If we did have additional projects that we needed to access, we would probably bring that back to council and have council approve that.
Okay.
Otherwise, if council had another direction for this funds, that could be brought forward as well.
And out of curiosity, what have we identified under that? Is that related to something else, or? I'm just curious, okay. I'll find out later. Okay, thanks.
The 2 fire stations, these are just set up for some donations that we've received specifically for the fire stations. Oh. What's that? Oh, good catch. We will correct that. Heritage, this is funds that were set aside quite some time ago, and I do believe it was from historical book sales, so we don't have a specific plan for funding for that at this time. The next 2 are both library funds, so that they administer this, and they're based on specific programs that they've developed. The Ontario Land Tribunal appeal, you'll see that one's in a negative. So that's just due to some unforeseen spending, I guess, but we are putting money again aside on that. It does have a regular funding source. And then the local share hospital funding, so that one's, I guess, our biggest one, and that one's to fund our hospital local share. We don't have an agreement yet with that one, but we're still holding that money in trust for that. The municipal accommodation tax, this one right now is in two, but we'll be combining those. So those are to be used in accordance with the MAT budget principles policy, and you'll see the balances of that. And again, that's unaudited. Pittman's Bay, this money comes from when we got revenue for Pittman's Bay, it would be put into this, and then we'd take it out for Pittman's Bay expenses. Planning policy and projects. This is for ongoing projects that mainly in the planning department, and we do fund for that each year. There's some big ones coming out of that this year, I think. And then the Port Sydney Community Committee and the Port Sydney Giving Tree, these are reserves that have been left over from when the town had, or when there was a committee that raised money. So that's sitting there, and that's used generally for hall projects. So that would come through the facilities team. Okay. Again, just records management. This is a project-specific one for records management projects. River Mill washroom. This is used to pay for the washroom lease, which is now done. So we'll have to look at whether we change what this fund's used for, the remaining funds. There is no ongoing funds for this. There is a salt management reserve, which has been here since I've been here, and it's for 115,000, and this was to build the salt dome. So we have identified that to go in to be used when we do the salt dome project. Short-term rental programming, this one's to smooth out any in-year fluctuations with that program. The Stevenson Community Center, again, that's one that's used for community hall projects. And transit is 85,000, and that's to fund future transit expansion. Sorry, I said I wasn't going to go through them, and now I am. So these are stabilization reserves. So we've got tax stabilization. So we've been in a period where we haven't had significant write-offs, that sort of thing, because we haven't had a new assessment for quite some time. But this is to offset those in-year changes that may impact property tax. Insurance, this is funds that have been set up to reduce the cost. So if we do need to use funds, if we are self-insuring claims or that sort of thing, that money is set aside to be able to use that. And building department, this is their fund that offsets year to year. So if they may collect a lot of building permits in one year, but really the work's the next year. So that's why they've got this. And they also have a policy that governs this fund. And then human capital, this is to offset one-time compensation costs. And there is no ongoing funding source identified, but if there are any WSIB rebates, it can go back into this. We do have a motion of council that allows that. And then our working funds, this is kind of our just in case emergency account. And we do have targets on this one. So we don't have specific plans for funding this, but this is generally used when there is something that comes up that's unexpected. And we do have funding that goes in each year. We did draw that back quite a bit, and we're trying to build that back up again. But right now, I think it's 160,000 that goes back into that reserve. I'll let Suzanne go now.
So just to talk a few minutes about obligatory reserves, these are reserve funds that the municipality is required to set to meet requirements of provincial statute or agreements with entities such as the federal or provincial governments. The reserve funds are can be created by legislation, which stipulates that revenues received for special purposes be segregated from the general revenues of the municipality. All earnings derived from such investments must form part of the obligatory reserve fund. These are the four obligatory reserve funds that the town has: the Canada Community Building Fund, Development Charges, Parkland, and Parking. These are the, we're just in the midst of our year-end process, so I put the 2023 balances on this slide because we still have some adjustments that we're working on for year-end, so I didn't want to put up the 2024 balances because they might change still. But here is the list of the reserves. I'm not going to go through them. If anyone has any questions, though, definitely.
I'll just mention too, just the very first one is the Canada Community Building Fund. Just a reminder, was the old federal gas tax that we got. No, go. No. Are you sure?
If I may, Chair Morrison, just so that's an obligatory fund, reserve fund, which is the glasses. The development charge, we've got $4.1 million in that reserve fund. And then if you go back to the stabilization reserves, we've got 1.3 million, I think, in the building department, correct? To offset, where did I see that? Yeah. So these are two separate funds?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the
It just seems to be a lot of funds, a lot of reserves. And I'm going to say it out loud that I find it, I know we have to save money and I know it's for future, but sometimes it's really hard when you have to, raise taxes and we have this here. Does anyone else find that? Like, am I just speaking out of turn here or just?
Thank you, Chair Morrison, and I appreciate your comment, Councillor Renwick. I'm assuming, though, part of our exercise as we go through this, the two of you have referenced on a couple of occasions, this was the reserve fund that was set up with this grant money that was from 10 years ago, and we haven't done anything with it since, or we now use it for. And so isn't part of the exercise trying to streamline a little bit? We, for example, changed the Forbes Hill reserve and moved it into the local share reserve because that made sense. That was a recent decision, and then we could pool dollars there. So to Councillor Renwick's point, do we look at all of these reserves and say, this one we need to collapse, combine, whatever, and change the direction so that it is not as convoluted, because it is, right?
Do you want me to? So I think this year we will be looking at some of those, the council reserve ones, the council discretion, so the ones prior to this slide. We will be looking at those to see if we can change some of them, especially as we're doing our financing strategy, if we need to realign some of them for the asset management ones. And if there's ones that, we'll probably bring that back to SLT to see what we should do or what we should propose to do with those funds. I will just say that the building department fund, that one comes from building revenues. So that one's not a tax funded one. It comes from excess building revenues over their expenses. So it's there to for exactly probably the next couple of years where we've had significant building permits, and in the next couple of years we may not have as many. So it's going to help with that. So you might see that one draw down, which is exactly what its intention is for. These ones here, these are set by by legislative agreement, so we can't change this. So actually within the development charges one, we're showing a total there, but there's actually 5 underneath that. There's library, fire, you know what I mean, underneath it. So it's actually even more broken down under this one. And we do have to report on these ones directly on our financial statements separately. So it's also, it's a completely different requirement. And these ones, you can only use them for certain things and under an agreement. So that's why these ones are separate.
Yep. I have Councilor Cloutier, then Mayor Alcock.
Through you, Chair. We also have to remember too, we have money in the bank, but we also have a lot of big expenditures coming forward that money hasn't been spent in the last 4 or 5 years. I mean, like we're working on a municipal building that should have been replaced. So, I mean, I don't mind having that money in there because when we do go to build and do it, it's not going to hit the taxpayer as hard. So I'm all right with the way it is.
Yeah, and a quick comment on that before I go to Mayor Alcock. I think for us, it's very convoluted, but thankfully you guys are the ones managing it. And I know you mentioned many times that we're still underfunded in our reserves. So the fact that you're trying to increase that and you have it broken down. So if we ask a question like, what about this and where would it come from? That you guys know that. So I think while it's convoluted, I like it in a sense. Mayor Alcock.
Thank you. I just want to follow up on that. I totally agree with those last comments, but I'm not suggesting that we change the amount that's in the reserves. It's and I understand you're not touching the obligatory reserve. That you know, obviously we wouldn't do that. But I do think that there is value in going through the list, and it's a long list of old reserves and what are we doing with that. We made some changes around the environmental reserve, and I think as council, along with staff, we look at and say, the intent is still there, this is what we want to do, and we made a couple of adjustments and you guys are recognizing that. So it's just that kind of lens that I do think makes a lot of sense to sort of rationalize, right?
Deputy Mayor Armour and then Councillor Schumacher.
Thanks, Chair Morrison. Just a quick comment. I know Councillor Renwick mentioned about offsetting the taxes. The problem is that it's usually only offset once, and it catches up with us a few years later, and that's where we get the big tax increases. So I think it's important to mention that.
Great point. Councillor Schumacher.
Thank you, through you. Yeah, so looking, like I see Mayor Alcock's point, looking at those big long lists of ones, but ones like the Port Sydney Hall or the Utterson Hall, we wouldn't then do that without talking to those user groups, and because that their funding was fundraised prior to when they were a board of council, and then it got incorporated. So knowing the history, specifically sitting on one of those committees, like the one for Utterson specifically was a bequeathment when somebody passed away specifically for that hall. So I wouldn't want to just council make the decision to go ahead and spend that money at this table without incorporating those groups, and I assume you would do the same.
Yeah, I don't think we would ever touch like the BIA, and that those are, we're holding the funds for reserve for a group. So, Councillor Clark.
Thanks, Councillor Morrison, and I agree a lot with what Mayor Alcock's comments were about looking at the reserves that we currently have in place. One of the things we talked about during our last budget was a reserve for Medill Yard as far as renovating a new building. So a thought would be, you know, if we can consolidate some of the reserves that we're not using, we could actually funnel those into a newly created reserve fund for that.
All right, we'll get back to the presenters.
I just wanted to add one comment here. We had someone had asked a question about the cemetery, why it's not on this list, and the cemetery funds that we hold are actually trust accounts, so they're not considered reserve funds. So I just wanted to make a note of that. That's why they're not on this list. So here we wanted to talk just for a minute about why it's important to use reserves for their intended purpose. One of the pros, I guess, is keeping reserves for its intended purpose is a financial best practice. So in case of emergency, tax rates and user rates can remain relatively stable. Taxpayers are not burdened by significant increases. Money can be saved for major capital projects that benefit the communities as a community as a whole, and municipalities can continue to practice long-term financial sustainability and better plan and budget for the future. Some of the cons of using reserve purposes for unintended purposes. The adequate funds may not be available to cover future emergencies. Property taxes may need to increase to cover unexpected losses. A lack of funds to maintain a state of good repair for capital infrastructure requirements could lead to decreased service levels, and creates a funding gap for projects that the funds were set aside for. Projects will be at risk in the event of economic shock.
So our policy does report, or sorry, our policy does require us to report annually. So this is kind of just our first step because we haven't given a high level kind of overview on reserves for quite some time. So we just wanted to do that. But we'll be bringing a year-end report hopefully next month that will include this. And we have done reports in the past. We did the 2023 year-end report in the Q3 forecast. That was the first time we've done a forecast for the reserves, which I think is really helpful. And then in the budget, we also did our projected balances, which was the first time we've done that either. So I think that's really good information for council to have.
We wanted to have this slide up just to highlight the fact that where the reserve money comes from. So municipality sets aside funds from different sources. So this could be the levy, this could be grants, donations, investment income, and budget surpluses. So a lot of the reserve funding does come from the levy, but not all of it. So we just wanted to highlight that there are other sources. So now we'll get into the actual policy updates that are included in the report. So there were some changes done, or some changes made to the purpose section. So we removed obligatory reserves because the municipality is required to set up the obligatory reserves based on legislation and requirements. So it's not really required to be included in the policy. The scope was updated to include some specifics on how the policy is to be applied. And then some definitions were added, removed, or updated to provide better clarity, and details on specific reserves were removed if possible, and instead a list of reserves and purpose will be reported annually. So we won't need to make as many changes to the policy going forward. We adjusted, we made some changes to the adequacy and target section. So the capital asset replacement fund, we specified that these funds have been set aside for replacement capital, not new additions. Center Street Environmental Reserve, we put a change in for how the revenue from the lease is to be treated, and that's just based on our actual practice that we've done in the last few years. The local share hospital donation reserve, we added this one and its targets to the policy. The Parks Capital Reserve, we included details on what revenues contribute to this reserve. Cemetery Capital Reserve, we included details on what revenues contribute to that reserve. The BIA reserves, we included details, some more details on those reserves. For the responsibilities and authority section, we updated language to tie into the budget and financial controls policy where practical. So the Chief Administrative Officer addition for the Human Capital Reserve Funds from the Delegation of Authority bylaw that was updated last year. So staff, we removed the requirement for approval by the treasurer and replaced it with consultation. We removed reporting requirements. It's been moved to the reporting section, so it's not been fully removed. The treasurer update for insurance reserve transfers from delegation of authority bylaw, and adding the ability of the treasurer to close any project reserves with a zero balance that is no longer required. So for the reporting section, we added reporting requirements to create a new reserve fund. So this just sets out specific information we want to make sure is included every time a reserve's created. We updated for insurance reserve transfer from delegation of authority bylaw, and then we added the ability for the treasurer to close any project reserve accounts with a zero balance. That's no longer required.
Okay. Thank you for that awesome report. We had a lot of questions along the way. Anything further at this time? Okay, with that, I will call the question. All in favor? That carries. And sticking with you guys, we're now moving on to the Corp 2025-23, the Asset Management Plan Update, proposed levels of service, and we do have a motion on that one as well. Moved by Councillor Schumacher, seconded by Councillor Clark. It is recommended that committee direct staff to utilize the proposed levels of service as outlined in Appendix A, Report Corp 2025-23, to prepare the life cycle management and financial strategy to meet Ontario Regulation 588-17, Asset Management Planning for Municipal Infrastructure.
Thank you, Chair Morrison. So we have a presentation to go along with this one. Just to kind of tie into the training that we did last month, and then kind of build on that, and it ties directly into this report with the proposed levels of service. So if we go to the first slide, so this one I wanted to add in. We had a question, I can't remember who asked it last cycle, about some historical information on other regulatory changes for asset management. I'm assuming that most people here are not going to be as excited about some of these historical events as maybe we would be. So I'm not going to highlight any of them in case, and just if anyone wants me to go into detail, I'm sure we can. But so this is just for visualization, and if you want more information one day. There has been a long line of changes though.
I would like to add that we started this process in 2009. So it's a long process, because the very first process we had to do was actually inventory what we have. And municipalities hadn't done that in the past. So that was quite a while, quite an undertaking.
So this is again, this was shown last month. So it just again re-shows where we came from recently in 2019 with our asset management strategic asset management policy. We updated to provide some existing levels of service in 2020. We did that again in 2024 with an asset management policy update. So this year we're looking at, or today we're going to be looking at our proposed levels of service in our asset management plan for all assets. We wanted to, so for this proposed levels of service, we wanted to highlight that this was the budget survey that we presented last year when we brought forward the 25-26 budget. And these were, this was information that we got from the budget process. So more than half of respondents felt that there was good value for the taxes they pay. A majority indicated that they are satisfied overall with the delivery of service by the town. And slightly more had the point of view they would rather see taxes maintained or reduced, even if it meant reducing service levels. So we took that feedback into consideration when preparing this report. The only service that the respondents, 73% agreed to pay more to maintain, was fire and emergency services, and a majority of respondents would pay more taxes to maintain these services. The only service most respondents, 50.3%, agreed to increase was roads, sidewalks, bridges, and storm systems, and a majority of those respondents would pay more taxes to increase services as well as maintain them.
I just wanted to add part of why we're bringing this forward to, like, it helps feed what we're presenting here, but it's also, we're also required to get feedback from the public on levels of service. So I think this does satisfy that we have reached out for that feedback.
We wanted to highlight that although our capital contributions are mainly tax funded, the town also utilizes other sources of funding to offset the cost of capital. This ties in a little bit to what we just talked about with the reserves, but in general, we have grants, donations, deferred parkland fees, development charges, Canada Community Building Fund, CCBF, Ontario Capital Infrastructure Fund, OSIF, and then this chart here is just a snapshot from the 2025 funding sources. This chart, there's a lot going on, I'm sorry, but I believe if you click, it'll highlight one kind of area at a time. So we wanted to break it down just to kind of explain it a bit and why we felt it was relevant to include it. So back in 2010, the first change was implemented with asset management PSAB, which required municipalities to start their asset management journey. So from the, sorry, it's a little hard to see, but the reserves were around 5 million and the debentures were up, let's say almost between 10 and 15 million. So it was quite a different image. We had we had higher debentures and lower reserves. So then if you press again, I believe so if we go to 2015, the town started to allocate a capital levy, which was dedicated to capital replacement. Capital expenses have started to increase and debentures have started to decrease. So you can kind of see a little bit of a shift there. Then the next, going forward to 2020, the town has increased the capital levy, we've increased our reserve balances, and we continued to decrease the debentures. And then fast forward to 2025, you can see that our capital levy is continually increasing. Our debentures are decreasing. They're and then we've kind of shifted entirely. So that's all been kind of the journey over the last little while. So looks great.
And I think at the last meeting, we were asked about how well we're doing or how well Huntsville's doing. And I think although we still have ways to go, I think this is a really great picture of how we've had a long-term plan and we've stuck to it, and it's flipped things around so that we're not relying on debenture funding, which is expensive.
Mayor Alcock.
Just a quick comment. Thank you, Chair Morrison. I'm really appreciative of you walking through this chart, because at first when I was reading it, I thought, but it's a fantastic chart. Really appreciate it. Wonderful, good information. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Morrison. And I agree. It's a very visually pleasing to see the debentures going down, reserves going up. I would love to see the tax increases along the bottom to see how that related to our reserves. And it's a little snap picture that we don't quite get to see, but it's a lovely photograph, and it is a very positive outlook for the future for sure.
Great point. Over to Councillor Clark.
Thanks, Chair Morrison, and I just wanted to make a comment on the budget survey. There's only 186 responses, which is really unfortunate, right? I mean, I don't know how we get more responses and get more out of that, because I think with the low survey number, the numbers really, I don't know how much you can really put into the feedback with that few of responses. And I'm not sure if that's really a good indicator of what the public thinks about our public budget and spending.
I totally appreciate those comments. I understand that. I think the sentiment we were getting out of the comments was that the public really isn't looking for us to raise taxes to provide additional services. I think that was kind of the feedback that we're getting, we'll get into it after, but we're looking at maintaining our levels of, we're proposing to council that that's what the recommendation is to keep going on as we are and not start looking at raising our road conditions and that sort of thing, because it is a lot more expensive. So I think that's what we're kind of getting out of it, that there doesn't seem to be a big desire for any of us to raise taxes. If that.
So getting into, oh good, okay, sorry. Getting into the service levels. So the town measures service, the levels of service we provide, but through two different ways. So community levels of service, or plain language description measures of the service that the community receives, and technical service levels are technical attributes that the service of the service that is being provided to the community. And proposed levels of service. So the Ontario Regulation 58817 requires that we propose levels of service options. How do these levels of service differ from current levels of service? Whether the proposed levels of service are achievable, and the municipality's ability to afford the proposed levels of service. And when determining proposed levels of service, we need to consider the community expectation, fiscal capacity, regulatory requirements, corporate goals, and long-term sustainability. We also need to manage community expectations. Given the choice, the community will likely expect the highest levels of service, and these expectations evolve when the costs associated with those services are fully understood. I just wanted to include that little bit of information in there. And then going back to 2024, so we had included this in I think I've included this a few times now, but the slide represents the capital funding gap. So we take the recommended annual contributions. That number is the total replacement cost of all of our assets divided by the estimated useful life. And so that's what gets us our 19.5 million. That's how much we should be putting aside every year. to save for the eventual replacement of the assets that we currently have. And in 2024, we contributed 6.9 million. So that gives us a funding gap of about 12.6 million. And that's to maintain our current levels of service, replace the capital assets we have, including the infrastructure, facilities, equipment, so like snow removal, fire trucks, things like that.
I will just add to this too, that this is the 2024, so we will be adjusting this when we bring forward the financing strategy based on new information and new assets that we've brought on over the year. It will, you'll remember from the earlier report, it is going to be bigger.
And then this is from our, again, back to the 2025 budget presentation. So the town's recently completed a roads needs study. That data is going to be used to help determine our capital requirements. The building appraisal condition assessment, the report earlier today, it's been completed. So that data is going to be added to our inventory, our asset inventory as well. So once we add the building condition assessment information to our asset inventory, it's likely going to have a significant increase on the value of our inventory. When we increase the value of our inventory, it will increase the green bars that you see on the sheet on the slide here. So the more current updated information, the higher those numbers are likely to go. And then it's likely that our contribution will be recommended to be increased even further in subsequent budgets to maintain the current service level based on those increased costs. If the funding gap continues to increase, it could lead to inaccessible assets or assets that are not in optimal use. So we need to balance growth, maintain existing assets and financing when we make these, when we consider these decisions. And that brings us, do you want to do this?
Sure. So although there was response in the public that showed interest in increasing levels of service both for fire and emergency services and roads, staff are recommending maintaining the current levels of service. This recommendation has been provided based on the municipality's ability to afford the levels of service that is currently being provided. Assuming that in order to maintain the current levels of service, it's anticipated that will be an increase in costs annually to maintain last year's service at this year's price. So what we've been doing, I'm sorry. Sorry, so basically what we've been doing in the past, and that's gradually increasing just to maintain what we've got. If there is any desire to make some significant changes, we would have to look at that in the coming year and how that would be funded, that sort of thing. But I think that the message that we've gotten around budget time is that we want to remain status quo. So that's what we're proposing here.
Mayor Alcock.
Thank you, Chair Morrison. I just, actually, this has been a great presentation. I appreciate it. I want to echo what you said earlier, Chair Morrison, about looking at our assets and looking at all of these contributions, and it's going to go up, and we want to maintain our level of services. And so I think it will be really important that council look at what assets are still important to us and what we need to rebuild, what we don't, and offload, that sort of thing. I won't go into great detail, but you know what I'm saying. Okay.
I think we're just closing off, so we're just to finish off. No, I think that was it. Yeah, I think that was it. Sorry.
Okay, great report, and thank you for all the explanation. Because when we read these reports, it's a lot of information for us to digest. Any further comments or questions on this report? With that, I will call the question. All in favor? That carries. Okay, and last one for you guys. Well, not you, just Julia with the investment stuff. So we're going to move to Report Corp 2025-24 Investment Policy Statement Repeal, Replace and Repeal. And I do have a motion moved by Councillor Renwick, seconded by Deputy Mayor Armour. It is recommended that committee approve the investment policy statement attached to Report Corp 2025-24 and further that resolution number 130-24 be repealed. pass it over to Director McKenzie.
So the investment policy statement is the town's direction on our short-term and long-term investments. We do have to update this policy annually, so that's why you see it every year. The One Investment Board and the One Joint Investment Board, or JIB, have implemented an outsourced chief investor officer, which is an OCIO model offering. This does increase the number of investment options available to our municipalities and improves the overall capacity for them to manage our investment plan as that whole fund grows. In this revision of the IPS, there were some significant formatting changes and wording changes to include the reference to the portfolio manager, and that's been changed to the sub-investment manager to reflect the changes in the OCIO. And other language has been changed as it relates to the OCIO offering. So that's why you don't see a red line version for this one, but there was a summary that is included in the agenda, in that package that was prepared by the One Legal team of all the significant changes. So you can see all the significant changes there.
Great, thank you. Any comments or questions on that one? With that, I will call the question. All those in favor? That carries. Thank you, Director McKenzie. And we're moving on to the last one from our department. It is Kenny Clay is going to speak to report number Corp 2025-25, amendment to public notice policy. And I do have a motion moved by Councillor Schumacher, seconded by Councillor Fitzgerald. It is recommended that committee approve the amendments to Appendix B of the town's public notice policy as outlined in report Corp 2025-25, changing the provision of public notice for designating heritage properties and heritage conservation districts from a local media outlet to the town's website. I'll pass that over.
Thank you, Chair Morrison. I think the report is pretty simple and short, so I'm just here for questions.
And are there any questions on this report? With that, I will call the question. All those in favor? And that carries. And now I'm going to pass it on to Deputy Mayor Armour to take over as chair.
Thanks very much, Councillor Morrison. We're going to go to 6.2.1. Corey Cruzen's coming down. It's report on DEV 2025-31. It's the annual 2024 bylaw enforcement review, and this is just for information. Welcome.
Thank you, Chair Armour. So a few things I just want to highlight on the report itself is in 2024, our parking bylaw saw a revision specifically for the EV chargers in the High Street parking lot. We also worked with, in consultation with people in the industry as far as the vehicle for hire and taxi bylaw, on the revision of that bylaw, with applications coming in as of March 31st. We have heard back from the industry and they're all reaching out for compliance, wanting to submit their application. We also worked with those in the refreshment vehicle sector of business licensing on some revisions. One to note is the annual licensing opposed to seasonal. So January 1st to December 31st opposed to May 1st to October 31st. Both are still available. We will continue to work in 2025 and revising some of the bylaws. One that we are currently looking at is the outdoor lighting bylaw, as it's coming into full effect in January of 2026, which enforces the previously grandfathered lights. We did see a decrease in parking tickets issued on Darragh Way, largely due to the increase of the fine down there, going from $75 for early payment to and $100 for a set fine, up to $250 as a set fine right off the bat. There was 16 refreshment vehicle licenses issued, and then 6 of those were extended past the October 31st timeframe. There was also 3 vehicle for hire companies that were licensed, with 47 drivers issued under those licenses as well. 2024 was also another successful year for the summer parking enforcement officer, with 240 tickets being issued. The administrative penalty notice system continues to be successful for the bylaw enforcement realm. There was a total of $7,625 being collected through the program. We also had 12 requests for requests for appeal going to screening officer, and 7 of those went to the hearing officer, which we were all successful in those hearings. And we also, in 2024, saw the full implementation of the cloud permit, cloud permit portal for the filing, tracking, and issuance of letters through the program. There was a total of 429 complaints filed with that system. And there's also an online or a website link on the town website for those reports. And I'm here for any questions.
Thanks, Corey. Great report. Does anybody have any questions? Oh, Councillor Renwick.
Thank you, Chair Armour, and thank you for the report. And just congratulations to the work that you do within the bylaw. I look at that list of all the bylaws that you guys are looking after, and that's a lot of work. So congratulations, and I'm happy to hear that the initiatives that this council took with increasing those fines down Howell Way have actually worked. That's good. So thank you for the work that you're doing and your team.
Mayor Alcock.
Thank you, Chair Armour. I echo what Councillor Renwick just said. It was a great report, and it's phenomenal the amount of work that goes on and all of the activities that you guys have been up to. It's incredible. I do have a quick question about the list, and I think it's the last 6 items that are under building, municipal tree policy, and they're identified just to say that's how they were dealt with, or because it was, let's say, done, the outdoor lighting in 2018. Are we coming back to council with an update on that? I know the outdoor lighting, it has to now be implemented by 2026. So I'm just curious about those last 6 items.
Through Chair Armour, yes, they will be reviewed. The outdoor lighting bylaw is our next on the list, just with that implementation fully in 2026. And then, we will go back through municipal tree policy and those ones just to review and see what they currently say. So.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Not see any. Again, that was just for information. Thanks very much. We're going to move along to 6.2.2. We have Chris Nagy coming down. This report, DEV 2025-31. And this is the 2024 annual building department review. And we do have a motion with this one. It is moved by Councillor Morrison, seconded by Councillor Schumacher. It's recommended that committee approve $2,500 contribution to the Ontario Building Officials Association annual meeting and training sessions, AMTS, conference being hosted in Huntsville. And further that, this contribution be funded through the Building Stabilization Reserve. Floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. So as required under the Building Code Act, I'm bringing the Building Department year-end report to you as public information. As highlighted in the report, you can see building permits numbers are stabilizing to around 700 after our peak in 2021. Staff continue to do a great job of administering the building code, and through the staffing addition in 2023 of the Property Standards Officer, enforcement of illegal building has seen great success. With respect to revenues, I do want to remind the committee that in 2024, we saw an increase in the minimum building permit values of $100 to $125, as well as there has been an increase to the user fee calculations from $10 per thousand construction value to $11 per thousand construction value for 2023. Even with these increases, we still continue to be on the lower side of the user fees of the area. And additionally, any expenses seen by the department that are not offset by these revenues may be offset by the Building Stabilization Reserve. In addition, I wanted to remind committee that in 2024, the ministry published a new provincial building code, which has been in effect since January 1st, 2025, and better aligns with the national code. Preemptive of this launch date, staff have completed technical training, which has led to a better understanding of this new code and its changes. Further, staff hosted a contractors meeting in December to go over these code changes that would affect our local region. These PowerPoints, code changes, and summaries have been made available to the general public through our website under the building page. With respect to the AMTS contribution asked to be funded through the reserve, through myself, our local OBOA chapter had volunteered to host the AMTS conference 2 years ago after another municipality was unable to do so. Because this general meeting is tailored to building officials, it provides the opportunity for participants to get technical code knowledge, legal advice, and industry exposure through both technical sessions and a vendor's trade show. Through the host committee, our staff have been able to volunteer and therefore put a Huntsville spin on both technical sessions as well as different events at the conference. The trade-off to this volunteering is the ability to attend the conference at no cost to the municipality, which will easily offset the $2,500 contribution being asked. I would like to note that through this contribution, the municipality will be noted as a sponsor throughout the event, and it's my understanding that this money will be used to obtain flashlights to go into an inspector toolkit being assembled by the committee and provided to the attendees to this event. These flashlights will be ordered through our ECDEV team and will be branded with the Town of Huntsville logo on it. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks very much. Mayor Elcock.
Thank you, Chair Armour. Just a quick comment. I am thrilled that we're hosting this event. I think that's fantastic. I absolutely support this recommendation. Excited that you're involved in all of this, Chris, you and the team. At one point you were thinking about putting a tiny box house or something like that in the parking lot. Is there any, how is that? That's what I want to get to.
So yeah, I'm happy obviously to talk about this event. Everybody's doing a great job of setting things up. So through the vendors, obviously we have internal vendors, but what we've kind of expanded because Deerhurst is kind of restricted on space for these things. As Mayor Alcock has alluded to, we've contacted one of the tiny house providers in the area, and we're actually going to not only showcase it at the event, but also do some testing within it. So we're going to do a depressurization test to show the balancing of the HVAC system. And so to kind of put it in the limelight, last time we had it up, we actually did a live sprinkler demonstration and set some buildings on fire in conjunction with our fire department, which was very interesting, and we welcome everybody to come and look at it, right? But this is the new spin because of the new code changes. There's a lot of mechanical stuff, so it's how do we tailor it? And as a building official, we just ask for the balancing report, so we get a piece of paper, but we don't actually get to see it being done. So that's what we're trying to accomplish at these events, right? So along that, there are other vendors that are going to be out, potentially a 3D concrete printing building that's going to be in the parking lot as well. And then, and we're going to do a live post-deck medical post helicopile demonstration. And we are trying to partner with the local schools, so the high schools, because we do have a student day at the event as well. So we're bringing them into the, so overall, the OBOA does a great job. And then the local committee, our board is doing fantastic to arrange all of this. So thank you. Thank you for those comments. Yeah.
Sounds great. I don't see any other questions. I didn't see in the report, but what's the actual date of that so we could all...
Yeah. So the date is actually the end of September. I will, it has been finalized. I just don't know it off the top of my head, and I apologize, but I will send that around. We may be tapping on some people's shoulders because typically in the past, we have had the mayor come and potentially deputy mayor and stuff. So don't be surprised if you get an invite, okay? So yeah.
Sounds great. Sounds great. So everybody block that date in September off in your calendars for sure. Excellent. So any more questions? Not hearing any. I will call the questions. All those in favor? Opposed? And that carries. Thanks very much. And you're staying with us. So we have 6.2.3, report number DEV 2025-33. It's the 2024 annual short-term rental program review. And this is for information, everyone.
So thank you, Deputy Mayor. So happy to bring the year-end report forward for the SDR program. As noted within the program, we've had another successful year as seen through positive revenues brought in and contributed to the reserves. In 2024, staff were able to launch the 24-hour call line for the SDR complaints, which we're seeing less calls at the office and through staff. And what we're seeing through that program is the appropriate information collected through this system, so we could actually issue, or through enforcement, issue AMPs. Staff continue to monitor illegal operations through the third-party provider, which led to the issuance of 50 penalties for advertising without a license, 36 being the first-time offense, 9 of them being the second-time offense, and 5 of them being the third offense. As a reminder, staff are able to escalate non-compliance under a Part 3 infraction to the provincial courts and seek higher penalties if we don't see a compliance. Further, as outlined in the report, finance staff saw 240 properties remit their MAT tax, which total 226 in revenues. Finance staff report that after programs supported through those funds, they are projecting a contribution of 210,000 into the MAT reserve at year's end. So with that, happy to answer any questions.
Another great report. Councillor Morrison.
Thank you, Chair Armour, and thank you, Chris, for these reports. The short-term rental AMP penalties, 3 strikes, you're out kind of a deal right now. Is that 3 strikes over time, or does it have to be in 1 calendar year?
Yes. So thank you. So through Deputy Mayor there. So it is over a 12-month cycle. We have run into kind of some individuals that, you know, they may be on the two strikes at this point, and you know, if they get another one in the calendar year, then, or sorry, I should say over the 12-month year, then we have full rights to revoke it, right? When I speak to the advertising without a permit, those are individuals that we can, in fact, include those strikes against them. So even if they did apply, depending on kind of their demeanor, like if they're at that 3-month or 3 strikes, we could actually bring them right forward to the appeals committee at this point, not the licensing committee, to kind of explain why they didn't actually register earlier on, right? And accumulated all of this, right? So we have in the past, I think we've revoked, I want to say just under 5 actual short-term rental licenses. And again, once it's been revoked, they need to go through the whole process. And typically they do come through the appeals committee to ask for forgiveness or to get their license back, right? So it's a program that seems to be working quite well, because no matter what, they need to answer for why they aren't in compliance, either before or during, right? So, yeah.
Follow-up? Go ahead.
Just a quick follow-up. On that note, I wonder if at some point we could consider a cumulative number that would get you to lose your license as well. So for instance, if 3 years in a row somebody has 2 and 2 and 2 and they're at 6, because I think it's a privilege to have these licenses and the program's really good. Is that something that we could consider?
Again, through yourself, so the 12-month, it was under review of our solicitor to kind of set those parameters. I would like to go back and, you know, discuss those if there is kind of the ability to kind of create a overall 3-year or something along those lines. I would preemptively think that they would probably suggest that it be a little bit more than just the 3 strikes if it's over that longer period of time, because that was the discussion. But happy to look into it and bring it back for sure. So yeah.
Excellent. Councillor Clark.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor Armour. And I just wanted to make a quick comment on the 24-hour phone line. That was a council initiative that we as a council endorsed. It sounds like that's worked well, and I'm glad to hear it's freeing up some of your time, your department's time.
Thank you. Yeah.
Councillor Fitzgerald.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor Armour, and thanks, Chris. Everything seems to be running along smoothly. I wondered, you had a few hiccups with the cloud and communicating with STRA license holders. Have we got any resolve on that? Are we still having issues?
Yeah, so through you, Deputy Mayor, happy to comment on that. So, any new applicant, it's a little kind of overwhelming for them to start off at square one. I always suggest, our counter's still open. The kind of nice thing is anybody that's outside of town and they're looking to rent these things, then they can go on 24 hours a day and apply, right? So we've addressed the issue when it's someone that's out of town to be able to communicate within the program and actually see what they're doing as they're doing it, and deal with the applications right over the phone and get those all kind of cleaned up. So that seems to be working really well. The renewals are a lot easier because literally when you go in, you can click copy the application and everything gets copied over, and it makes it that much easier, right? So one thing that we're trying to do, and it was highlighted in the report, is get those reminders with respect to mat tax and clean that up. Because it's under the building realm, the reminders are restricted to similar to a building permit kind of a thing, but I know that finance is doing a great job of sending out those reminders as well, right? So, yeah. Thank you.
Excellent. Just to clarify, so it's the date they issued their license, their year begins, or is it the annual year?
So thank you for that. Yeah, it's actually the annual year. So one thing for renewals, they need to be brought in by the first full week of February as the renewal aspect. Anything beyond that, they kind of kick in as a brand new application. We're going through everything square one, and it gets issued for. So the licenses issued for this year are strictly for the 2025 calendar year. That's it. So.
That's good. I gotta admit though, that 24-hour call, I haven't received a call for short-term rental in quite a while, so keep up the great work. Not seeing him. Whoever's doing it. Kudos to whoever's doing it anyhow. So any more questions? Not seeing any. That's it. So I'm gonna turn the chair over to her worship.
Thank you very much, and thanks very much, Chris, for that last report. Okay. All right. Goodbye, Councillor Cloutier. You're all right. Stepping out but coming back. Stepping out but coming back. Apparently. All right. All right. We only have one item left, and that is under new business, and that is our discussion around the deputation from this morning with respect to the Port Sydney Beach parking lot, boat launch, and shoreline area. So we do have a draft motion, but maybe I should. Councillor Fitzgerald, would you like to comment before we put the motion on?
I would be happy to hear the motion, and I'd be happy to support the motion.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's just something that we're going to be looking at further around the lakes and preserving our water system. So happy to do it, and I think it would be nice if we could eliminate some of the costs that are associated with it by having staff come back with some plan by way they can help and assist with equipment or man hours in order to reduce the costs.
Okay, thank you for that. And Councillor Schumacher, did you say no? No. Oh, yes, I know you. Yes, actually, I think you already have. And just so you know, you're already there. And Tina is in the gallery, so if there are any questions or we want Tina to walk down, we could certainly ask her to do that nicely, of course. We'll ask her nicely. Deputy Mayor Armour.
I just want to say I think it's a great initiative, and kudos to them. But I just don't know because our 25 and 26 budgets are set. So this is dealing with money that we really don't have yet, or we don't have. So I'd really like them, work with our staff, but maybe looking at the opportunity for community, in kind to assist with putting this in place, or at least putting the rocks in for now to prevent the trailers from going into the water.
Okay, thank you for that, and I think that's a great comment. So CAO Corey.
Thank you very much, Chair Alcock. So in discussions with Director Bissonnette, he feels that the cost would be fairly minimal and that we should be able to absorb it in existing budgets.
Sorry about that. The 10,000 they're requesting with equipment use and stuff.
Tina, you have your hand up, so I'd really like it if you would walk down, please. And given that you have had a preliminary meeting with Director Bissonnette, that would be great. Thank you.
Through you, Your Worship. So with our meeting with the Lake Association, I know those are pretty big dollar amounts and we haven't budgeted for them. You are correct. Talking with them and going through it, the high amounts are mostly getting equipment and some boulders and so on. So they've asked that when we do some road work, if any boulders we come across, we'd be happy to keep them for them. We will also help with in the fall when we're not so busy after Thanksgiving and help them. They're going to have a team for planting and we're going to help with whatever they need for us to be down there for machinery. So it'll probably be the little tractor from the cemetery or if the roads department with the backhoe with the big boulders. So we're really not looking at any costs for us. It'd be just the labor side of things. And for their mulch, we looked at we get wood chips from companies around, especially Hydro. We get a lot of wood chips from, so they'll be using that as well. So there's no cost to the corporation. And if there is, it'd be, honestly, they honestly said they just need our labor work. So.
There you go, Deputy Mayor.
Thanks for that.
That is great. I just am in awe. Thank you for figuring that out. I, like Councillor Fitzgerald, think this is a great project. And the fact that they came together, they had the foresight to meet with you and Randy before, it was very good. And that the Watershed Council is involved. And I know from a fact that Rebecca is really good at what she does with respect to the landscaping. So thank you. Should we put the motion on the screen and then we know what we're supporting? Okay, here we go. We have a motion moved by Councillor Fitzgerald, seconded by Councillor Schumacher. Whereas Mary Lake Association and Muskoka Watershed Council presented to General Committee on March 26, 2025 regarding installation of vegetation and drainage at the Port Sydney Beach, whereas staff have been working with the Ministry of Natural Resources to confirm ownership of the beach lands. Now, therefore, it is recommended that upon ownership confirmation from MNR, staff be directed to work with the Mary Lake Association and Muskoka Watershed Council on the implementation of the vegetation and drainage as presented on March 26, 2025, and further that any costs incurred by the town related to the project be funded through existing budgets. Comments? Councillor Fitzgerald.
The MNR ownership was a surprise in that motion. For all the information that I've received in the past 10 years, we don't own it, and we could have a memorandum of understanding with them, and which we, I believe, do. So I don't think that can be part of the agreement moving forward because we don't own it.
Okay, so Tina's rejoining us.
Through you, your chair. Okay, so this one is, so on our side of things, it looks like the MNR owns it. And on the MNR side of things, they say we own it. So right now we are working with the Ontario Survey Governor to tell us who owns the property. There is no PIN for that portion of the parking lot. So I do have the legal team working with me, and we're hoping to see what the outcome is.
Which would be a good thing to be able to clarify anyway. Yes, Councillor Fitzgerald.
My fear is we'll hold up the project. So I think they would definitely give us approval regardless of ownership to do it if we ask them. So could we remove the ownership part? Because it will hold it up, definitely.
Well, is that, Tina,
binding.
may I ask, since you've already started doing that, is that your thought that it will take them? I mean, is this something you see taking many months, over a year, whatever, to get clarification? Because I do agree with Councillor Fitzgerald, if we're not sure and they do what they tend to do, we still want to initiate this project in the fall.
Correct. So through you, Your Worship, we are working, the legal team is sending it to them weekly. We are pushing for this. I don't know if we can do the work if it's not our property, but if it is our property, I've already reached out to the MNR, and it doesn't look like it would be a big permit issue if it is our property to go through the MNR for being that close to shoreline. So it looks like it's going to be a green light if it is our property. I know it doesn't really answer you.
You still have your mic
know.
on, Councillor Fitzgerald.
May I follow up? I think we should ask them for permission to do it regardless of who owns it, because that they can answer right away. There's no clear legal thing of ownership. So we've been doing work at the beach, we've been doing work at the parking lot, the docks, bathrooms, Creekside, and I know there may be pins for those, but that just looks like a stumbling block and something that will put the red light on the project.
I think I will ask, I hear you. I think CAO Corey would like to jump in.
Thank you, Chair Alcock. So to respond to your question, Councillor Fitzgerald, we cannot do work on property we're not sure unless we have permission to do so. However, I believe we're not starting the work until the fall. Is that correct? I am fully confident we will have that addressed before the work starts in the fall.
There you go.
And if not, I will
Fully-
personally contact someone at the MNR to ask permission.
And just a final word, I did never suggest that we did it without permission. I said asking for permission in the instance that we don't have to prove ownership, because you're in the registrar of land
True.
space. Who knows?
So I think as you heard the CAO saying, we're absolutely confident that we'll be in a position to start the work in the fall. Would anyone else, yes, Councillor Morrison.
Yeah, it's funny because I just checked the title to the land and it shows non-applicable unknown. So what I worry about is if we're putting something in the motion to get the MNR involved when they're saying we don't own it, we don't want to be involved, maybe that's not the right avenue. Maybe it's if we take out MNR, say as long as we are able to get permission to do the work and get rid of MNR altogether, because they're saying they don't own it, so
right,
it might be the wrong road to go down.
So it's a good point. Why do we need it in the motion if there's lack of clarification? We are pursuing clarification. CAO Corey?
Thank you, Chair Alcock. We would be happy if committee directed us to remove that portion. We know what we need to do to get the work done. So if committee would like to remove it, that's no problem.
I think I'm hearing that committee would like to, or at least 2 members of committee would like to remove it. One,
Please.
2, and maybe more. So we're going back to the proposed motion. And
Would we need to do an amendment or can we
I
just
don't know.
change it on the fly? Jessica will tell us.
Jessica's she's going to tell me before I blurt anything out.
Well, let's have it. Yeah, we would hate to be handcuffed by wording we
I
put
know.
in a motion.
It's a good thought.
That
Yep.
that binds us to the wording in that
Yep.
motion,
No, it was
regardless
good-
of the
good discussion.
capabilities and our belief that it will happen.
No, just a little bit of cynicism there, Councillor, just a tiny bit. I know, just teeny bit of cynicism. Okay, we're about to. No. This shouldn't be a big issue. Okay, the amendment is about to be okay. I now have a motion moved by Councillor Fitzgerald, seconded by Councillor Morrison. It is recommended that the following be removed from paragraph 3 upon ownership confirmation from MNR. Mover and seconder, comments? Fine, I think that's a yes, that's happy with. All right, is there any more discussion around that particular? I don't see that, so I will call the question on the amendment. All those in favor? And that carries. Thank you, Tina. Is there any more discussion around the proposed motion? No. So I will call the question on the original motion as amended. All those in favor? And that carries. Thank you for your work on that, Tina. That's great. Lovely. We are at this, right? Yeah. Oh, right. That's yours. Don't take that. Okay. All right. I have a motion moved by Councillor Renwick, seconded by Councillor Schumacher. It is recommended that we do now recess at 12:10 p.m. or yes, p.m. until 1 p.m. All those in favor? And that carries.